It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott is in Berlin. He'll join us by Skype. Mary Jo Foley still at home in New York. We're going to talk about, of course, the fourth quarter earnings, actually fiscal year 18 earnings for Microsoft. Suffice to say, it was a very good year. And a weird plan from Microsoft called Modern Life Services. We'll find out what that all means and who's in charge next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 579, recorded Wednesday, July 25th, 2018, Microsoft Milk. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans, introducing Rate Shield Approval. If you're in the market to buy a home, Rate Shield Approval locks your rate up for up to 90 days while you shop. It's a real game changer. Learn more and get started at rocketmortgage.com/windows. And by MoogSoft. Reduce IT alerts and tickets by up to 90% guaranteed. Visit moogsoft.com to learn more and sign up for a demo. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we talk about Windows Weekly. And I don't mean with an A, I mean with a K. I mean with a double T, double good. Paul Thurrott, he's in Berlin. Ich bin ein Jelly Donut. He is
of the umlaut.
The land of the umlaut. And the, what do they call that thing, the double S thing? A Schloss?
Oh, yes. The, what is
that?
it called? It basically has the, like the...
it looks like a B with
the
a...
Weissen.
The Weissen and the Heisen?
Yeah.
And the Fleivenheiven?
It's an SS, essentially. Not that SS. Like, no reason to hold a grudge,
Our 15-year-old son, who's studying German and loves it, has somehow figured out how to make that character on the PC keyboard. And now he won't stop.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
It's probably one of those Alt-0249ers kind of thing. Yeah. All right. Let us, so that's Paul Thurrott, THURROTT.com. And then on his left is Mary Jo Foley. She's at allaboutmicrosoft.com. I shouldn't need to introduce them, but occasionally we get new listeners who are saying, well, who are these people?
Yeah, I'm asking the same question of those new listeners.
Who are these people in my house? Enough. Paul, I thought you were going to Stockholm. What the hell are you doing in Berlin?
I did. I couldn't wait to get out of there, so we came to Berlin immediately.
Stockholm is probably a little dull compared to Berlin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Listen, they're both beautiful cities. Stockholm is beautiful.
Yeah. Stockholm's one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
This year is weird because my son is out at college and he can only come for a week because he has a job, and life is kind of taking its own course. So he's here now. We always have friends who come and visit as well, and we usually do a side trip with those folks. We decided this year, because we were in Stockholm, to do the side trip with Mark, our son, rather than with our friends, because Stockholm has a lot of museums, which my friends would really be into. Mark is more of a I'm bored, what are we doing next kind of guy, and we decided we would take him to some place that we knew he would like.
Where people wear leather pants.
Yeah.
No, it's not true. No.
Both of my kids are old enough to drink in this country. And I got to tell you, it changes the tenor of the trip.
It does, doesn't it? It does. Oh, Paul, you're getting into that new stage of life. I've been there, and I know how you feel.
Yeah.
You'll actually miss traveling with your kids, believe it or not. I really...
I already understand that. Yeah. It's last year was interesting. He came to Barcelona, and we had our first experience with him where we were kind of out drinking late into the night. We went swimming in the dark, and we had that kind of weird parent-son bonding moment. And then this year, my daughter, who works at, there's a famous local amusement park where we live called Dorney Park, and she works there, and she has, and of course I joke that she's a carny and she has her own secret language, and she jokes about the rubes and whatever, but she has kind of opened, she's a quiet kid, but she regaled us the other night with stories of the people that come to this park, and it's kind of an amazing. It was kind of an interesting experience.
Yeah, when your kids, they have real jobs and real lives, and they have nothing that has nothing to do with you.
They actually have stories.
Yeah,
my kids have stories. It's like,
I love it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. My son just started working for Twit. He's down the hall.
Nice.
That was a weird
Does that mean,
experience.
can I haze him? Is that like something I get to do as a host?
We made him wear a beanie. He's a noogler. Anyway. So Paul, you're in Berlin in a record-setting heat wave.
Yeah. We were previously in Stockholm in a record-setting heat wave where there is approximately 90 minutes of dark every night.
Yeah. So it's hot all night.
I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, no, I know. I've been there in July. And then Mary Jo, what's it like in Manhattan right now? Is it warm?
Oh, it's horrible.
Cool and crisp.
Horrible.
Yeah.
It's been raining constantly. The humidity is like at 99%, and the temperature is like 85.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, but you do have rain. See, that's something that we were missing before I left. The grass was getting brown. So rain's a good thing.
Yeah. But not when it adds to the humidity.
No.
Yeah.
No, when it becomes steam before it hits the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of
I
rain.
walked outside yesterday and my glasses immediately fogged up. I'm like, I can't even see now.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, either one of you have a Surface Go yet?
Nope.
No.
No? I'm getting mine next week, August 2nd.
Me too.
Yeah. So, right. So what date is that? Or what day is
It's
that?
a Thursday, I
next
think.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a problem to tell you that Microsoft had a goal to get it into the hands of reviewers before that date.
One would expect, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm trying not to break any confidences here. I had told them at the time that I was going to on this trip, and they kind of, they were like, oh, maybe we can make that happen before you go, and nothing came of that. But it's getting pretty close. I would imagine the review units will probably go out early next week. And I'm saying that off the top of my head. I actually don't have any idea, but my understanding is that nobody has review units yet.
Same. I don't think anybody has them.
Yeah.
I'm really, because I need to know, because I have to decide whether I'm going to bring my big, heavy, powerful, and conveniently very warm MacBook Pro with me. Or
what's the date, Leo, for this trip?
August 29th. So I have 1 month.
You'll
have plenty. You'll have plenty of time.
Yeah, I'll have time to play with the Go and see if it'll do what I need it to do, because it's so light and small and nimble. It's a nimble device.
Nimble. I like that's a good word.
Nimble. You want to talk about Windows? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, why not?
We named the show for a reason.
We're here. Item 1. Microsoft has a plan. I should just leave it at that. But
I know, you're laughing. We all were too.
There's more. To try to win back consumers. I didn't know they had lost consumers.
Really?
I didn't know that they ever had consumers.
Really?
But we'll get into that. Let's do some. Mary Jo should tell the story. What's happening? Because here we go again.
So I'll tell you the story, and the backstory of this story is pretty interesting. So last week was Microsoft's big partner show. The press were banned because they combined the partner show with their internal Ready conference for their own employees. So they said this year no press. So I'm looking through Twitter, watching what people are tweeting, and Yusuf Mehdi, who is one of the top marketing execs in Windows, tweets a picture of himself at the partner conference. And I'm like, wait, there's some words on that teleprompter I can kind of see.
Oh, you're so good.
And it said, this year, we begin the journey to win back customers with our vision. I'm like, wait, where is this coming from? And what is modern life? Which is on the screen also. So I started asking people at the conference, like, hey, did you go to this session? It doesn't seem to be recorded or anything. Like, what did he say? So I found people who were there. And he started out his session by saying, you know what? I'll give you the exact quote because it's kind of interesting what he said. He said, in the last couple of years, we've lost a little of that magic with consumers. So we talk on this show all the time about all the products that Microsoft's had for consumers that have failed or that they've revoked.
Yeah.
I mean, the list is kind of endless. Groove Music, Windows Phone, the Microsoft Band, et cetera, et cetera. So I think they've come to finally publicly acknowledge, guys, we're not making any hits with consumers, and we need them because this is a big part of the market.
By the way, this is part of Mehdi's new title too, right?
It is.
Yeah,
so
that was the thing.
Yeah.
I sent that to Mary Jo after she'd written her article. I was like, "Did you see this? I mean, he's taken Windows out of his job title."
I know. So because as soon as I saw the slide in his picture, I'm like, what's his title these days? And I look on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, he just changed his title recently in June.
He's corporate vice president of
Modern Life and Devices.
I'd be so embarrassed to put this on my business card.
Yeah.
I am
okay,
vice
by the way,
president of Modern Life. What?
This is just as an aside. I mean, when Joe B came back and he started working on whatever the group he's in, which is something experiences, Windows demoted to part of Microsoft 365. I sort of thought, if that was me, this would be kind of deflating, given my history of the company and given the history of the company. Use of Medi, same thing. I mean, except for, he did have a kind of a side trip of the Xbox group for a while, although I believe at the time they were technically part of Windows, whatever. But basically, the guy who came up in the NT group has been part of Windows for probably the biggest part of his career at Microsoft. Yeah. These kind of changes to me are a little alarming, and I'm one of those people who tries to help people not feel alarmed by some of the changes that are happening at Microsoft. And I get it, I guess.
Yeah.
But there is a sort of nonsense at Microsoft these days, which is mostly just in the words that they use. It's a positioning that they have where everyone is a winner and we're all accessible and we're all approachable and we're touchy-feely, and it's not just about logic, it's about emotion.
Can I ask a question?
It's weird.
Okay, if Microsoft is losing consumers, who's winning consumers?
Well, I think they're comparing themselves to Apple and Google, right?
Okay, so are they comparing themselves to phones? Because that's where Apple's winning, is in phones.
Yeah. So
that's not really the right way to look at it, right? It's not. It's what they're winning is with consumers. Like, consumers are moving to phones for computing.
Well, but I would submit it's the category that's winning, not the company. And because Microsoft has spectacularly failed in mobile, it's not really they're moving away from Microsoft. It's just they don't have a product in the category.
Yeah, except I don't think it's just mobile. I don't think it's just mobile, though. Like,
no, it's not just mobile, but we'll get to this. This is a big part of the thing that I wrote this week on this topic is kind of assessing the stuff that's happening around Microsoft that they just have no control over, and they're doing what they can do, which is what she's describing.
Right. So let me finish setting up the whole thing that he said, and then your whole thing is going to play right into this. So then he says, okay, all these cool consumer companies have one easy thing to understand, like Amazon, shopping, Spotify, music, Netflix, movies. What do you think about when you think about Microsoft? Productivity.
Yeah, it's work. It's a work computer.
Right. So now they're targeting what they are calling professional consumers, which best I can tell from how people were talking about this to me is people like us who are consumers of consumer technology, but we also have to use it sometimes for work. So
this is a tough one.
This is kind of the niche they're looking at for modern life. And so what they're doing, best I can tell, is taking some of these things they've already talked to us about, like the Your Phone application that lets you pick up where you left off and do things on your PC and then transfer them to your phone. Things like Time to Leave in Outlook, Focused Inbox, App Mentions, and even the Surface Go. And they're trying to bring all these things together and say, these are the things we have that appeal to people who are professional consumers. And this seems to be how they're going to try to go to market with all this stuff in fiscal 19, which they've already started as of July 1.
Yeah. Some months ago, I have this kind of to-do folder that is articles that I'm writing or want to write or whatever. And sometimes they stack up. There's some articles I started a long time ago that never get published or never really amounted to anything. And one of them was about Microsoft's consumer play, as we'll call it. It was before any of this branding kind of came out. But the opening of the article says something to the tune of, if Microsoft's consumer play is that all of their business customers are consumers too, then they've already lost, And it comes down to what Leo's I think said, which is, we associate that with productivity, and that's work. And it's a tough mindset to get people excited about. And the problem with maybe Windows PCs, when you compare them to say Macs or Chromebooks, or although I realize people do work on those things, or more important, when you compare a Windows PC to a mobile device, or some kind of smartphone or tablet, is that we've stopped, by and large, using them for these consumption experiences. People don't typically, I know some do, but most people don't turn to a computer to be on Facebook. They don't do it to play games. They don't do it to watch a Netflix video, and for those people, for most people, the majority, it kind of leaves this limited set of productivity experiences, Microsoft Office, whatever. It's work, and it's a tough thing to get people excited about. The other issue is that the places where people are having these fun experiences every day, there's really personal experiences. People can't get their face off of a phone. They don't control those platforms. And to get someone to explicitly seek out a Microsoft app or service and connect it and configure it and make it work on those devices is tough. And this comes down to the power of defaults in many ways. It doesn't hurt Apple or Google that the default apps that they have for email or web browsing or whatever it might be are usually pretty good to really good. But it really helps that they're just there on the phone, and we've seen that over many years with Windows. A lot of people just will use IE or whatever because it's there, and they're simple, consumers in that sense. And this is that's the thing I sort of wrote, which is just, the after effects, the ripple effect of Microsoft's loss in mobile is one of those things we're just going to feel again and again and again, because this is an example of that. This whole notion of, how do we become relevant to consumers in this world that has moved on from us and from the PC? They're good ideas, right? I want to be really clear about that. I'm not criticizing Microsoft. I don't have an idea. It's not like I have some, I'm raising my hand in the back of the audience. I have an idea that's going to save everything. It's just tough. It's a high bar to overcome.
And the other thing that's hard is they're trying to, I think what they're going to try to do is not necessarily make the word productivity be work. Like, they're trying to say you could gain an hour back of your time if you use this stuff, right? And so you could spend that time any way you want. You could be drawing pictures. You could be watching movies, right? And so I think what they're also trying to do is disassociate productivity with having to be work productivity, and it also could be personal productivity.
You're almost talking like efficiency. In other words, if we can make things better for you. But efficiency is kind of at the heart of a lot of things Microsoft has done over the years, from the little clippy thing that would come up and say, hey, it looks like you're trying to write a letter. Would you like some help with that? The idea there is also to save you some time and to take a task that is unfamiliar or difficult for a lot of people and make it more approachable. It's great. It's still work. I don't know. It's just a tough thing. This is their lot in life. I mean, this is where they've made their bread and butter. No, I do sort of feel like they should just embrace it, but they have these things. The Xbox is a great example that doesn't fit into this productivity thing that we're talking about, and people will cite these things because they're exceptions. Minecraft, another game-related thing that's kind of an exception. But you can see as Microsoft steps away from things like Media Center or Zune or, Windows Phone maybe, but Groove even, these are consumer services that in the past, Windows, by being dominant, would have floated all of those ships. Yeah. When Windows isn't dominant, you can see what happens to those things. They can't exist without leveraging that dominant pattern. They cease to make sense as a business. And I think, that's, I get it. I mean, I look at what they're doing and I'm like, given what you have, right? But it's a tough thing. Apple obviously has these cross-device experiences. If you stick within the Apple ecosystem, and they're really strict about it, you'll have an incredible experience. Google is starting to do some of that stuff across Chrome OS, and Android. Very, very interesting. They're going to have what is basically continue on PC between Android and Chromebooks. It becomes very seamless. The thing that hurts Microsoft there with Google especially is that Chrome is something that runs everywhere. And when you can do things like send text messages from your PC using Chrome over Android, essentially, it's a super seamless kind of experience. It's the type of thing, or maybe use a Mac, or maybe use a Chromebook. It doesn't really matter what you chose. That's the beauty of it. It's kind of nice. It's a step above the Apple lock-in experience. The Microsoft approach, you're coming at it from the opposite side of the coin, so to speak. It's the PC side. It's only the PC. It's not the Mac or Chrome, for one thing. And the way that they have to sell you on this is the thing that we complain about all the time on the Windows side, which are these advertisements. You're sitting there working along, you're doing whatever you're doing. This little thing pops up in the corner. It says, hey, you can get Edge on your mobile device. You should do that, And I think most Windows users see that as an annoyance, not as something like, hey, that's cool. That's a really useful tip. I think I'll go figure out how to find Edge on my Android phone or whatever it is, install it, sign into it with my account, sync stuff up, take advantage of timeline. I mean, we're describing something that, like, to people who are kind of involved in this stuff, like we are, it's like, yeah, I didn't describe anything technically complex there, but I just described a series of steps that my wife would have given up on 15 minutes ago. She just doesn't get. She's like, what is this? Like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
And that's the challenge, I think, for Microsoft.
Yeah. Everyone's saying to me, yeah, okay, so that's their strategy, but can it actually work? Like, is it going to change anything? I'm like, I don't know, because it's basically a relabeling of stuff they're already undertaking and trying to do. I mean, it's more of a positioning change for them than it is like a new set of products or services, right? Even though they call them something new, Modern Life Services, it's stuff they've already been talking to us about, timeline sets, all that stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing that they did include, I didn't mention, is they also talked about Cortana as part of this and mentioned the Johnson Glass smart thermostat. Remember we heard about that a while ago?
It was so cool
Cortana
looking.
Powered.
Yeah.
Right. So they dropped a hint during Inspire that this thermostat will be in Microsoft stores in August. Because everybody's been saying, well, they talked about it, last year. Where is it? So that's still coming. And it sounds like they're going to try to work smart home stuff, if they have more of it, or if they have any OEMs selling it, into this vision also.
Yeah. Cortana is an interesting problem as well. And we're going to talk about the Microsoft earnings later in the show. But there is this kind of interesting thing with Microsoft, which is a huge and complex company. It has these three major business groups. But it also, within those groups or business units, there are multiple groups, et cetera, et cetera. And if you think about something like Cortana, I'm sure it's somewhere right in the company, but Cortana is also something that appears in products that are in other parts of the company.
Right.
And you get into these weird situations where Cortana can't do something, or I met with these guys today, but you have this Cortana in Windows 10 that can connect to Microsoft products and services. And one of the things that comes up in the list is this thing called Wunderlist, which doesn't technically exist anymore. And it's Microsoft To Do now, and Microsoft To Do isn't one of the choices. And it's why does this happen? I'm not entirely sure, but who's responsible for the UX of Cortana in Windows? I'm actually not entirely sure. I would have to guess it's probably the Windows guys, frankly. But they're connecting to these back-end Cortana services that are beyond their control. And so there's, we all remember that old Microsoft diagram, the business units with the guns pointed at each other. That situation doesn't exist today, but it kind of does, right? I mean, these different parts of Microsoft have different priorities. And I'm sure the Windows guys went to the Cortana guys and said, hey, we got to get this Wunderlist thing out of here. Yeah. Let's get going on this. And they're like, yeah, that's not going to be done for, 3 more months or 4 more months or whatever. And it's like, guys, we have to ship a version of Windows in the next 6 months.
Right. Yep.
I don't know. It's just Cortana is Microsoft in many ways, right? It's a thing that has a team, but it's supported by these different groups, and it's just kind of a mess.
All right. I mean, so tell us more about this consumer focus. How they're gonna win consumers back. What are they gonna do to make people who use iPhones and Google I don't know what, Google phones and maybe iPads. What do consumers, what does that mean? What do consumers love? What do consumers love? Apple and Google, you said. Well, I don't even know if they love Google. They love Apple. Is that really what they're saying? I want to be Apple? I hope not.
They've wanted to be Apple forever.
Yeah.
They want Apple's money, but,
The Apple envy thing, I bet it's hard to give that up, honestly. But the Apple envy thing for a time was based on these devices and stuff. Surface exists because of Apple envy.
Yeah.
Windows 8 happened because of Apple envy.
Yeah.
Yes.
But let's give Microsoft a little bit of credit. When Android was coming around and they changed it because of the iPhone, they just copied the iPhone. When Microsoft came around in the wake of the iPhone and they made Windows Phone, yes, it failed in the marketplace, but they looked at it and said, look, we need to do things differently, not to be different, but let's try to rethink these things that people do with their phones and make them better. And they came up with some ideas that were actually really, really good for consumers. The problem is they didn't work for the brands that needed to be part of it. And so I always use the hub example. You have a Photos hub or a Pictures hub or whatever they called it. And the idea was, well, maybe you have a Flickr account or you have a Google Picasa account at the time, what's now Google Photos. Maybe you have photos up in OneDrive. You have photos wherever you have photos. You can sign into each of those accounts. All of your photos will show up in the hub. It will be literally a hub for all of your photos. That sounds like a wonderful thing for people. And it is. It would be, except it could never happen because the Googles and the Flickrs and the whoever else had photos all said, no, we don't want people to not see our brand. We want you to go to our app to use your photos. Mm-hmm. That's the power of the brand.
Yeah.
And so it failed. But I mean, it's again, a lot. I feel like with Microsoft, with this stuff, it's really about, you have to kind of take the market as it is, at the time they thought we had this great idea that could maybe beat the iPhone, and it didn't pan out. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reasons for it. It's not just the thing I just described. There's all kinds of reasons, but whatever.
Right.
Today, you can look at that slide, or you can kind of think about what they're doing, cross PC experiences. You can, they talk a lot, and they're kind of slow to market with stuff. Last year, one of the big complaints was they promised all the stuff at Build and none of it ever shipped. Mm. And this year they promised some stuff, and this time they said, look, it may or may not come to the next version of Windows, so great, we can give them the little asterisks. But, there's not even been a hint of your phone or my phone or whatever they're calling it.
I was thinking that too. It doesn't even exist in the preview yet, right?
No. And,
it's not in Redstone 5 yet.
No, and maybe it won't be. Look, it's an app. Maybe they could ship it separately. Fine.
True.
But if you look at the Your Phone functionality that's built into settings today in Windows 10, including in RS5, if you've ever used it, you kind of recognize it's cool to be able to get a notification on your PC when you get a text message on your phone. Mm-hmm. You can click on it, and you can reply to that text message using a big keyboard. It's neat. It's really neat. Yeah. It's a great thing. The problem with the Microsoft approach to this, and I don't know what technically causes this, is that it's flaky. So sometimes that little pop-up notification will happen many minutes later. Sometimes, by the way, it doesn't appear at all. Mm. And the problem with that kind of thing is that if you can't rely on it, you just give up on it. And there are third-party things, I think.
For a while, it used to work on my Windows 10 PC, and now it's just stopped completely working.
That's what I mean. It's flaky.
I can't figure out how to get it to work again.
Yeah. So there are third-party solutions that do this. Yeah. There are many that go back many years, but there are some newer ones that are coming out now. Google just released messages for web. So if you're using an Android phone and the Google Messaging app, which is what I do use.
Try that?
I use it all the time.
The thing that makes all your messages show up in a tab on Chrome.
Yeah, except I save it to the taskbar as it's like an app. It's a web app, so you can save it.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I don't know why I didn't love it, but I was like,
I love it for this. So first of all, it's instantaneous. I have sat there with my phone next to the PC. I just noticed this today. I literally just did this. The guy that I met at Microsoft, we were texting each other, and I didn't have his cell phone in my address book. So on my phone, I changed it to his name, and I tapped save or whatever. And as that happened, peripherally, I saw on the screen of my computer something moved, and I looked up, and it was the web version of his thing changing to his name. It literally as I hit enter or save or whatever it was.
Yeah. Cool.
The reason this thing is cool is the same reason the Microsoft stuff should be cool. It's the ability to. I still to this day cannot type accurately. Well, period. But especially on a tiny phone keyboard, it's amazing to me that autocorrect has not figured me out yet. I type this thing that's one letter away from being a word, and it just says, no, you want this garbage? That's fine. You can have the garbage. It never corrects it. But I can type on a keyboard, and to be able to type in something lengthy, like my wife and my kids and I are planning to do this thing at this time, and if you guys want to come along, here's where we're going to be in this. And just to be able to type that out is it's like a gift. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. That's the problem that Microsoft faces.
It is.
In the Apple world, they've had this thing I just described for years, continuity, I think it's called, the ability to get your text messages on your iPad and I assume on your Mac as well, and do that thing. It's nice. It's integrated. It's wonderful. You have to be all Apple for that to work. Okay, great. Google is starting to do it now via Chrome, and Chrome is like the Trojan horse. It's an application platform and a web browser that everybody installs. I don't know. This is a problem. It's a problem for Microsoft.
You know what the other problem is? I think I was talking to Rich Woods from NeoWin about this. He was saying, it's kind of cool. Like if you have an Android phone, all the things that automatically you can use from Microsoft and how they all work and stuff. And I'm like, you know what though? As a normal here, like mostly normal user, regular person, sometimes I'm confused what I'm using, right? Because I have the Microsoft Launcher on my phone, and then I'm like, am I? Which is my default assistant now? Is it Google? Is it Cortana? Like when I'm doing a voice search, which one is actually going to pop up and be used? Same with search engine. It's like on some things I feel like I've got it set to Bing. On other things I've got it set to Google, and I'm like,
so I could actually answer that question for you. Because I have a brain problem and I look at this stuff a lot. But I think but you're right. As a normal, you wouldn't know that. So the short version is, if you're doing it through the launcher, through the UX that is associated with the launcher, like if you hit the search bar on the screen, on the home screen, that's going to go through Bing.
Yeah.
If you do a search, it's Cortana or voice search. Cortana is going to be involved, right? It does not by default change your default search engine in the phone or your default web browser or your default search or assistant. So once you're outside the little skin that Microsoft has on top of all this stuff, you would be using the Google thing.
Yeah.
I think you would agree that this doesn't hamper your experience per se, right?
No.
You're trying to find an answer to a question, whatever. I mean, it probably works fine, no matter which one you end up using, right?
It does. It's just, although sometimes I know which one is better for something, like if I want something specific.
Yeah. Oh my God. I have an example, but actually it's part of my pick or tip or whatever, so I'll save this for later. But yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're on a quest. Let's see how their quest goes to win back consumers.
This is win back consumers 3.0.
Again, my point though is it's form factor. I mean, if you want to win back consumers, you got to give them the form factors they want. I mean, you're going to do fine with Surface is great. It's fine, but it's obviously not a consumer. I guess maybe the Surface Go, is that a consumer product? I guess that's the closest.
They think Go will be like in good part a consumer play as well as first line worker and education. So consumers is one of the audiences they're targeting with the
Xbox
Go.
is a consumer product. I mean, they do fine. Unless they want to be a PlayStation size.
Look, unfortunately for Microsoft, what we keep coming back to is that their core constituency, right, the big market that they do have, is the enterprise.
Right.
And the enterprise is an interesting place where if they wanted to, the world of IT is not like it was in the early 2000s. I remember distinctly Ian McDonald telling me about the corporations that were their customers were literally super gluing USB ports so no one could plug in an iPod and potentially download damaging information, private information from the company.
Right.
It's not like that anymore, right? The whole BYOD thing happened.
They understand this is the world. What are you going to do, right?
Yeah. But you could, I guess you could, as a business, as a company, say to your employees, like, look, you can have an iPad or an iPhone, you can have an Android device. If you're really lucky, your workplace may even supply that for you. Isn't that nice? But here's the thing. If you're going to access corporate email, and you have to access that through Outlook Mobile. We are not going to support that on the Gmail client, on whatever baloney Apple thing you want to use. You have to use Outlook Mobile for that thing. You can do that. And I do think there is, however many hundreds of millions or maybe even over a billion, whatever the user base size is there, it is still sizable, and it is still an audience. You can count it. It's big. It's it's possible this might happen. But that's the problem. They don't want those. I mean, they already have those guys. Like what we're describing is they want to hit people. What was the thing Satya Nadella said when they introduced? Or, well, it wasn't the first introduction, but maybe I don't know what it was. July 2015, January 2015. Sorry, he said, we want people to love Windows 10. Really, what he's saying is we want people to love Microsoft.
Yeah. Sorry.
And yeah, sorry, exactly. Sorry. You can look at Windows 10 specifically and say, well, there's a bunch of stuff in there, ads, and that people don't like. Crapware comes from Microsoft now. I mean, what is the world's gone crazy, right? Microsoft is respected for sure. And if you're looking at it from a business, this unfortunately, and I hate to say it this way, but we're kind of nobody ever got fired for choosing IBM. We're kind of in that territory now, I would say, with Microsoft. Well-respected business brand. Blah blah blah. We want people to love us. We want the office drone to think of Microsoft when they come home with their iPhone and want to relax with an engaging round of OneNote or Microsoft To Do or something. It's kind of a hard sell.
It is. Yeah.
You can't make consumers love you. But if you could, this slide would do it.
That slide would explain exactly how that would work.
I look at this and I go, oh, empowered experiences plus digital transformation. I get it. So the point of this slide is they've added gaming and modern life.
Yep. The top two things in the left corner of that slide, gaming and modern life, are the new two things that got added this year. Before, those other four things below it were areas where they were trying to get people to focus. So now they've added
in these other areas, it's the modern life area. Microsoft for your modern life. That sounds so old-fashioned.
We looked at these four businesses and we had the gaming on the other side. And we thought, is there room for another thing?
Modern life. It sounds literally like something you'd say in the 50s. For your modern life.
But,
I'm pretty sure modern life was an 80s song.
Oh yeah, the Modern Life was a band, right? Modern Life.
Probably.
It was a Bowie thing, right? Now
probably. I mean, it just sounds like an 80s thing.
Maybe they picked the theme song and then the concept.
No, I think they already had modern desktop, which is the way they talk about Microsoft 365 modern desktop. Yeah, which also means nothing. I think they're trying to do
disconnect. Giant disconnect on that. Digital transformation. I'll be fair to Microsoft. It's real, right? There is a real digital transformation that is occurring. I mean, I get it, but doesn't it sort of remind you of the paperless office? That this promise that if you just, I think in that case it was like AT&T products and services or whatever. We're gonna get rid of paper in the office. Digital transformation is like an admission that 40 years later this never happened. Like we've been talking about this transformation forever, and it's like, well, the PC is going to do it. Okay, well, the internet's going to do it. Oh, that didn't happen. The mobile device is going to do it. No, that didn't happen. Cloud services totally going to do it. Now it's intelligent cloud connected, or intelligent cloud, intelligent edge. I can't even believe I can't get that out. But sure, this will be the one.
This is it. This is the one.
This is it. No, the other ones, they were cute, but this is it. We figured it out.
It's interesting. I guess this is my problem with corporations. And I think it's my problem with Silicon Valley in a way. Is now we've gotten the stage where they just are trying to dictate what you want. Like, we know what you want. You want modern life. We know what you want.
Yeah. Who we can blame for that?
Who?
Is Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, yep.
Because Steve Jobs actually did know what you wanted.
Yeah.
No one else does.
But that's the difference.
No one
Steve
else
was right. The rest of you,
there is
no idea. Yeah, no clue.
He was a savant in that exact area.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be the next Steve Jobs, or to be the Steve Jobs of insert industry name here, whatever it might be. There is no Steve Jobs. There is no Steve Jobs. You can imitate him all you want, but what you're doing is the Halloween kind of thing where you're dressing up in a costume, which, by the way, a lot of people do, dress up in a Steve Jobs costume and get up on a stage. You're not Steve Jobs. By definition, you copying Steve Jobs means you have nothing to do with Steve Jobs.
Wow.
There is no Steve Jobs.
Modern life is rubbish.
No, I don't mean to say there, but this notion that we can dictate is a Steve Jobs mentality. It worked for Steve.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it did.
It used to be. We were talking about this on Triangulation on Friday. It used to be that Hollywood, dictated what people wanted, or before that, the New York elites, Madison Avenue, told you what you wanted. Now it's Silicon Valley tells you what you want. I guess that's maybe, or tries to.
Well, it makes sense that the biggest advertising engine on the planet comes out of Silicon Valley. So instead of the Mad Men of the 60s who were setting the styles and whatever, it's, those really connected hip people from Google.
Yeah. Google style.
Like those guys are just,
Google style. Yeah. It's in, it's hip, it's with it, it's now. See, that's the thing. I wouldn't think, I think when they say we want to win back consumers, it's from Apple. It's not, I don't think Google has consumers. Nobody says, oh, I love Google. They use it. But there's no love.
I guess I was thinking of the assistant, and when I was saying Google.
Yeah, no, people, we use it. We use Google Search every single day, right? We use most people use Gmail for their mail.
I think people rely on it. I think there's a reliance. I think the thing that's interesting about Google. Yeah, no, you're probably right. And by the way, Google has its own case of Apple envy. They have an event every fall that's like an Apple event. We're going to release a new phone that no one's going to buy.
Right.
It has a really good camera and the rest of it. Yeah, no, I am too. But I mean, like statistically, this is like, if you think Microsoft has a low market share in PCs, look at the market share that Google has in phones.
Yeah.
Nobody buys these things. So, they're desperate, right? The smart speakers, we got like a little laptop thing now. We got little accessories and cases and, nobody buys this stuff.
Nobody wants
it's just not this. It's not the same. But Google, there is an advantage Google has over Microsoft, and it is that on mobile devices, people do rely on a lot of those things. And Google Maps is one of those things that people who have an iPhone that comes with a Maps app, I bet the majority of them actually still download and use Google Maps, or some huge percentage at least. A lot of the Google apps and services, Google Photos and Gmail and Google Calendar, which is by far the best online calendar, I think, are excellent. I use them on Windows. I use them on whatever mobile device I use, and I know a lot of people do. Google Chrome, I know on Apple, Safari probably has some outsized market share, but the amount of people who use that thing use Chrome rather on iOS is astonishing.
Yeah.
I think I would say, thinking about Microsoft as they probably think about themselves, the real reason they want consumers is because it's the part of the market they don't have, right? Like they've got the enterprise, they own that. And they see
what do they have to offer consumers? What do they have?
I know, but they see this other big chunk.
Imagine like I said, Mary Jo, you're going on some trip, and I'm like, I need you to be able to read this Word document I'm going to send you, and you say, well, I'm only taking my phone. I'm like, great, install Microsoft Word on your phone, and you're like, okay, and then you go to the store and you search for Microsoft Word and you find it, and you're about to click install, and you're like, why am I putting this thing on my phone? What am I doing here? Yeah. Like, what am I using this for? What is this? Like, that's, and by the way, you don't even need Microsoft Word to read Word documents on your phone. But I think there's just a hesitancy because it's work. I've just given you work, and I really, there's no fun Microsoft thing. I mean, there's no that I'm going to put on my phone, even I'm a Microsoft guy. And even, it's like Word, like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What is the point of this?
Yeah.
It's a tough thing. That's all. That's what I was trying to make the point about Google. You got a new phone. You're like, I'm going to put Google Maps on here. I'm going to put Chrome on here. I'm going to, whatever those things are you choose. I think for most normal consumers, there are way more Google apps on their phones, whether it's an iPhone or an Android phone, that they've explicitly installed themselves, than there are Microsoft apps. And I think there's an envy there too. It's not as hot or as bad as it is with Apple for sure. But Google has won over, you're right. I think that, nobody loves Google, whatever, Google Chrome, Google Maps, but they rely on them. They really do rely on them.
Yeah.
And that used to be the relationship people had with Microsoft apps on Windows, when PCs were at the center of the universe. You may not love IE or whatever, but you relied on it. That was the internet. That's how you got online. It was big. Now most people wouldn't touch that thing with a 10-foot pole, which, by the way, is probably the right response.
Let's take a break. I want to win over your love. But
well, let me give you a work-life services thing that'll help.
Oh, that'll help. Coming up in
whatever the term is.
Yeah. I don't even remember anymore. It's already gone. It's already fled from my head.
It's marketing nonsense.
Coming up, more Scarlett tidbits. And Paul's scoop from Berlin. But
mini scoop.
Mini scoop. Don't get your hopes up.
It's super mini. Don't wait up for this one.
Tiny scoop. Boris from Berlin is in studio. He's visiting from Microsoft Berlin because he heard Paul was going to be there, and he had to get out of the country quick.
Yep. Smart.
He said, if I had but known, I would have stayed another day. Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans, the best lender in the country for home loans. Number one in volume, number one in customer satisfaction. In fact, they've won that one 8 years in a row, according to J.D. Power. Number one means they're the best. People love them. See, that's what everybody wants. They just want to be loved. And I'll tell you what, you're going to love them even more because Quicken Loans pays attention to the experience. That's, I think a lot of lenders pay attention to, their side of the business, but they don't pay attention to your experience when you're, dealing with them. And I think that that's so important these days. I'm such a big proponent of this. And certainly Rocket Mortgage is all about making the geek happy. People who want to apply for a home loan, not at the bank, who don't want to go get papers from the attic. They want to just do it all fast and easy on their phone or their tablet or their computer. And that's what you do. You go to rocketmortgage.com/windows. But they continued. They didn't just rest on their laurels. Oh, we got Rocket Mortgage. We did it. We're done. No. They continued to observe, and they noticed that lately, and this is a relatively new phenomenon, the home buying process has become a little anxiety-riven. Interest rates have been flat for so long that we didn't even think about this for the last 5 years. But now, as interest rates start to go up, and we know more rate increases are coming, according to the Fed, there's some anxiety when you're shopping because if it takes you a few months to find a home, that loan's going to cost you that much more. And even like a quarter point interest rate is thousands of dollars over the life of a home, over the 30 years of a home loan. It's a big deal. Many thousands of dollars. So here's what they created. It's a two-step process. So Quicken Loans calls it the power buying process. They'll verify your income, your assets, and your credit. They do it, as always, very quickly, in less than 24 hours. That is a big deal just by itself because a lot of times you apply for a loan, you're in a hurry, right? I want to buy this house. They'll do that fast. And then once you get verified approval, when you go and you make an offer on a house, it's just like you're a cash buyer. The seller knows you're good for it. There's no contingency. We've got the loan. We got the loan. We got the money. I'll write you a check today. I'll buy this house. That's huge. So that's step one, to get that verified approval. Step two, once you're verified, you qualify for their new exclusive Rate Shield approval. Now, this is great because this answers that anxiety of the increasing interest rates. Rate Shield approval locks your rate up for up to 90 days while you shop with a guaranteed rate. It will not go up. They can't go up. It can go down, actually. If rates go down, your rate will go down, but it won't go up. So either way, you win. This is exactly what I mean when I say Quicken Loans is paying attention to your experience. They relieve the anxiety of house hunting, which is anxious making as it is. We don't need to add more with interest rates going up. Here's how you get started. Rocketmortgage.com/windows. The same place as always. Rocketmortgage.com/windows. Rate Shield approval is only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. It's rocketmortgage.com/windows. rocketmortgage.com/windows. We thank them so much for making Windows Weekly possible. And we thank you for patronizing them because that makes them happy. And then when they're happy, I'm happy. When I'm happy, Paul Thurrott is never happy. I realized that chain was just going to flop right there. It's going to end. No, you're happy about Scarlett. Actually, this is kind of a surprise. So last week we talked about Major Nelson saying new hardware and accessories, and then retracting it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is related, but now we're hearing about new hardware.
Yeah, it's not. So this is Brad has had a series of leaks with regards to the next generation Xbox consoles, and Brad's going to come up a lot. You might want to keep your finger on that button.
Just keep Brad here. All right.
Just keep me. Just
I got the Brad
there.
button. Yeah. He's leaking right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, Brad did have a leak in his basement yesterday.
Yes,
Interesting. Anyway,
a series of leaks. Yep.
He's a lot of leaks over there. So yeah, that is ironic when you think about it, isn't it? Anywho,
it's karma, baby. Instant karma gonna get you.
Yeah. So this is, you mentioned the fact that I'm never happy earlier, which is kind of interesting because there's this weird area where I get overly exuberant about, and it's I have great hope for the future of technology, and I always think things are going to happen more quickly than they do.
And that's why you're ultimately unhappy.
Yes,
right there.
That might, right.
Yes.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, just being alive for 50 years kind of makes you unhappy.
Yeah, I know that. Tell me all about it.
Just the weight of the world bearing down on you is terrible. But with regards to Xbox, I looked at Microsoft's business, a year or so ago, and just logically, you can see the future of this company is in the cloud. And how do we apply this to gaming? And obviously, you're delivering games over the internet, and Microsoft has this infrastructure, Azure, and so forth. They're in a much better position if this world ever unfurls than our companies like Sony or Nintendo, and that's kind of interesting, So here's Microsoft; they've lost all these console generations, and who knows? They may emerge on the other side of this looking pretty good. So this year we've learned that they are in fact working toward this goal, but the way that they kind of put a pin to my balloon is that it's not happening immediately. It's not there yet, and so for the next generation of consoles, whatever these things will be called, we have these code names like Scarlett and so forth, but there's going to be the kind of traditional style, and then there's going to be the version that has its foot in the cloud, where a large part of it is going to be that thing that I described, which is cloud delivery of games. And so it's kind of a baby step thing, and we're getting information in little dribs and drabs as well. But you can see it in things like the fast start technology that debuted in the most recent version of the Xbox system software. The goal there is for any Xbox user, but especially, by the way, people who are subscribed to Xbox Game Pass, which is kind of the nascent version of this coming service. You start downloading a game to your console, and you can start playing it a lot more quickly than you could in the past, like twice as quickly. And that's a big deal because these games are humongous. Xbox One games, especially 4K, can be in the tens of gigabytes, are always going to be in the tens of gigabytes, actually. So even if with a really fast connection, you're going to be waiting to get that thing, I will remind people that this actually isn't a new problem. If you go back 5 years, and my son and I got up at midnight to go buy the newest Call of Duty game.
It was so cute.
Yeah, and we come home with a disc, and we're all excited, and we're up, and we're going to play this game, and here we go. Nope, because you put that thing in the drive, and then you have to install it. Like you can't, and you're still waiting. And so I get a lot of pushback from people on the cloud stuff. You don't understand. Rural America, has a 1 megabit connection out in the middle of nowhere. This is never going to happen. And to which I sort of say, I don't think you understand. The chances of you getting higher speed data is much higher than you never getting higher speed data. It's going to happen. It is going to happen. You may not be on the front wave of this coming generation of gaming. But if your internet connection is 1 megabit per second, I have bad news for you. You're not on the front wave of much. So that will happen. It will happen. I don't mean like it's probably going to happen. It's going to happen. Of course it's going to happen. And so it will happen on whatever schedule happens. But we are going to get there. And Microsoft is working toward this future, as they should. It's smart. So anyway, this year's been interesting because over a period of time, we've gotten separate sets of leaks that have come out about this. This is something that has leaked so much they actually formally kind of acknowledged it, right?
Wow.
Right ahead of E3. It's really unusual because the last thing you want to do when you're selling a product is to talk about something that's going to be awesome that's coming down the road and makes the thing you're selling now look terrible.
Yeah.
The good thing for Microsoft is their strategy in the video game market is really smart, and so they're ensuring a level of compatibility between generations of consoles. And so if you bought an original Xbox One, you might be in the market for an Xbox One X now because it's 5 years later or whatever the time frame is now. If you never bought into an Xbox One, and you're still on the Xbox 360 or whatever, again, it's a great, these things have been revved like 3 times. This is kind of cool. Like we're kind of further along. If you're firmly set where you are, you have an Xbox One S or an Xbox One X, know that the money that you spent on games and on services and so forth is going to carry forward to whatever this next thing is. Whatever they call it, everything you have now will almost certainly work on the next thing too. However it's delivered, And
however delivered part is the part I'm the most intrigued by, of course, because they've tried to do game streaming before and they never could pull it off. And now we know they're supposedly building this on Azure, right? Like Azure is going to be the backbone of it somehow, which is interesting because Xbox Live doesn't use Azure at all. I mean, they use it for some components of the services. They add them in, going forward, like analytics pieces and such. But it does. The backbone of that doesn't even run on Azure.
Right.
And then Mixer doesn't run on Azure, right?
That's an embarrassing little problem.
I mean,
so
it's just going to be interesting how they do it.
Yeah, this is very reminiscent of when Microsoft bought Hotmail and it was running on FreeBSD and whatever proprietary database. And, they very quickly got that up and running on Microsoft hardware and software. I think it took them like 15 years.
It took, didn't it? It took like 15 years. Really?
Yeah. So I think those things will be rectified or whatever. But the consumers don't really care. No, they don't. It is even between the 360 and the Xbox One. To me, the really interesting thing that changed was with the Xbox One, every single game I buy ever will always be digital only online cloud-based. Like I get it I don't play it over the cloud. It doesn't stream, but I download it from the cloud. I have never bought a disc-based game for the system, and I never will. With the Xbox One, because it was around, Xbox 360 rather, it came out in 2005. At that time, what we're describing now was not possible. They did not do that. It had a disk drive, obviously, and every game came on disk. And that every single game you bought for the first several years of its existence, they all came on disk. But at some point, these games started becoming available digitally. And so I made the transition at some point to buy those games digitally at the end of the Xbox 360's lifetime. Yeah. And the way that pays off for me as an Xbox, customer, user, whatever, is those games that I did buy digitally on the Xbox 360, I can now play through backward compatibility by and large on the Xbox One. Whereas the disc-based games, I can also play, but I'd have to keep the discs.
Yeah.
I'd have to actually put the disc in the drive. I don't even know if the drive of my Xbox One even works. Like I would prefer never to plug anything into that.
All right. I don't know if you.
So this is one of those things like.
Sorry, I was going to say, did you see the follow that The Verge did to Brad's story? Because they added a little new tidbit to it, the xCloud thing. Did you see that? Yeah. So they say Microsoft's already been experimenting with combining 4 lots of custom Xbox consoles into a single server blade for its data centers, which makes me say, so will this be Azure? I mean, I thought they did say it was going to be Azure, right?
It almost kind of doesn't matter, right? And the reason I say that is
no, it doesn't matter to consumers at all. You're correct at all.
Well, I mean, it might not. It might literally not matter, right? So, what I mean is, Azure is a mountainous set of services that's offered to customers that apply to different needs and workloads and whatever, and you can kind of cherry pick the things that you want as a customer and use them. I don't know that there is something to be gained by making what Microsoft does for Xbox Live available to any customer. Right, that it is a special use case. In fact, it may be a secret that they wish to keep to themselves. It would be a huge win, for Sony or Microsoft or EA or one of the other, Blizzard or whatever. Blizzard is probably part of Activision now. I don't remember anymore. But one of these big game companies to kind of adopt this platform. But I think these things are big enough that if that were ever going to happen, that they could come to Microsoft and it would be a special thing. It doesn't have to be an off-the-shelf Azure offering where you're like, okay, this is going to be $10 a month. I will take that. So, and that's what I mean. It may not matter. Ultimately, the whatever Microsoft learned about load balancing and scale and whatever else in Azure and elsewhere is going to play into whatever they do. Pardon the pun, on Xbox Live. And then as they do this thing on Xbox Live, they may learn things that will apply back to Azure.
Yeah,
And when
that's
you
true.
think about Windows Server to Azure, you've heard this story. They did this stuff on Azure, and they said, this would actually really help over on the Windows Server side on-prem, and they brought some of that technologies back. It's kind of a virtuous cycle kind of thing. So will this thing be an Azure-based, technically? It kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, the only reason I care because it gives me some way to cover gaming. Since if it was Azure, then I have a plausible reason to even write about it at all.
Yep.
But also because I think they've been kind of looking to bring more ISVs to Azure, right? Like they've been really making an effort to go out there and recruit ISVs. And right now they've been like enterprise companies like SAP and get them to host on Azure, Adobe, those kind of companies. But if they start doing this with game vendors too, like third-party game vendors, not just Microsoft Game Studios, that also is interesting. And that implies to me it will be Azure. And somehow it would be not so much. I don't really care so much how the services, the gaming services, are surfaced, but I like knowing the under the cover stuff, like what the operating system is, and does it use Hyper-V, and does it use this and that. I like that stuff, and I think it's interesting to see how they leverage investments they've made in other parts of the company back into gaming too, not just the other
that's
way.
kind of the point. It's not just that you like it. It's a proof of concept.
It is.
That's right.
Yeah, it shows that you trust Azure.
Eating your own dog food. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess what I mean is I think those stories can still be told and will be told, right? Yeah. Regardless of what they brand this thing or call it or what it is really, that even when you look at relationships they may have with a certain company, like I'll just use Activision as an example. Like if Activision comes to Microsoft and says, wow, we really like this thing you built and we'd like to use it for our own in-house, blah, 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 whatever. Activision might not want the world to know that they're relying on Microsoft for that, or maybe there's no way to hide it. I don't know. I don't really know how this works. There are different kind of considerations, but Microsoft will promote the fact that, hey, we started this online streaming thing, and of course, who did we turn to? The Mark Rozinovich and the experts over in the Azure group, and we built this with them, and they explained to us how we can make this thing scalable. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's going to be part of it, no matter how they position it.
True.
I just want it to happen now.
Yep.
How did Xbox get so high up in the list? This is I
actually put it there, which is no, because you know what? That was a pretty good scoop to have about there being the two consoles and one is just a streaming box. Yeah. That was interesting because we've been trying to figure out how are they going to do this, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, we get a gaming service. It's coming within 3 years. Okay, but how are you actually going to do it? Like people want to know, like how is it going to happen, right?
I didn't read Brad's article because why would I read anything that Brad writes? I've been traveling. And I will give you one little tidbit. Maybe this is in the article. I'm not really sure. I didn't read it, like I said, but there's always some question with whatever bit of information about when is it from?
Yeah.
Because sometimes things leak and they're actually like 6 months old or 3 or 9 months old.
Joe's been talking about Scarlett for a while. I mean, that's not right? Wasn't that a code name you mentioned?
No, it was Brad, not me.
It was you. It was Brad.
No, Brad. Right, Brad. So, but the point is, Brad has gotten, or Mary Jo gets information, and and sometimes it's not always clear. Like it's
how old it is. You're right.
Yeah, it's always important to kind of realize that because Andromeda is a good example of this. A lot of the Andromeda stuff that we had talked about fairly recently, it kind of, I think it was Mary Jo who kind of talking to people kind of realized like some of this stuff, it's true. It's true. This is, from internal documentation, but the email or the whatever it was from like last November, and things may have changed since then. And so the thing about these two consoles that I think is maybe one of the more interesting bits is that this is absolutely brand new information. This is not from a spec sheet from last October or something. Yeah. This is new, or recent, I should say. I don't know, new, but it is the current thinking. And I think that can be helpful sometimes to understand that nuance, because
definitely.
A lot of times, we can get people really excited about something and surprise, we didn't realize that they've already canceled it internally.
True. That's true. Good point.
Even the packaging No, wait a minute. Before we do that, I have to mention, yesterday was a red letter day.
Yeah.
Because the most boring game ever written has finally come to Xbox One.
Yeah, but the Xbox One version is even more boring, Leo, and that makes it special.
It's the best, most boring.
It's funny, because my son is with us this week traveling. I've talked to him about a bunch of different stuff. I only get to, he's at college, so I get to see him like 3 times a year now.
No,
so
I know the feeling. I know you get, Yeah,
it's terrible. It's like getting stabbed in the back. But anyway, we were talking about video games and stuff, and I was kind of interested to see what games he's playing now and so forth. He's actually playing a game called The Forest, which I had never heard of, which is some kind of a horror, kind of scary game or something. Of course, he plays Fortnite all the time. Anyway, I saw the story. I haven't written this up yet, but No Man's Sky came out last year on PC and I think on PlayStation 4, if I'm not mistaken. It was not met with good reviews. No. I ended up it's an open world kind of thing, and then by open world I mean literally there's nothing in it, and that was kind of the problem, that people felt it was really shallow.
19 billion worlds and nothing going on.
Yeah,
it's like downtown Petaluma on a Saturday night. It's
yeah. Right.
There is a new DLC though that came out simultaneously, so I am hopeful. Yeah, is it on the Xbox Pass? I wonder.
I don't.
Because then I won't have to buy it. Oh, because I already bought it once. I don't want to buy it. I don't want to buy it again. GeForce Now has it. It's streaming on GeForce Now. That's how I've been playing it.
Maybe if you've played it, I mean, maybe you know this. What I've heard is that they've actually worked to really kind of improve it and fill out the world over the past year.
Right.
And supposedly this DLC, which like you said, is shipping concurrently with the Xbox One release. Maybe this puts it over the top.
I want to give it a chance. Yeah, I want to give it a chance. Yeah. It's called No Man's Sky. Something happens version,
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really want to buy it again.
Yeah.
But maybe I have to. Anybody play No Man's Sky? Anybody?
It's not exactly a PUBG.
Yeah. It's an action, and I put that word in quotes, adventure. I guess it's called No Man's Sky Next.
Okay. Well, like if you play a game like Fortnite or PUBG and you parachute or
it does look prettier.
Well, it's 4K and all that kind of stuff. So now when there's nothing, you can really see the detail into nothing from miles away.
I should give it a second chance. God, you know what? It had such promise when it came out. I'm sorry, Mary Jo.
Leo, life is too short for No Man's Sky. I think it's time to move on.
Maybe.
I do too. No, if you guys say it's the most boring game in the world.
Okay.
Just want to give it a second
I would
chance.
give anything to come back in 5 years and find out that Mary Jo has gotten addicted to a video game and she never told anybody.
This whole time she's been playing Minecraft.
Yeah, the reason she never leaves her apartment. She's gathering crystals or something or whatever.
Guys, no.
We can dream.
Well, the real problem with it was, even though there were like all these worlds, they were all fundamentally the same. Similar. They were. Oh, this one's.
I feel that way about the
planet.
The towns in Pennsylvania are like that.
Yeah, it's like Lower Macungie Valley, going for 80 million light years.
It's Lehigh Valley, by the way. But yes,
okay.
It is fair to say that the differences between Lower and Upper Macungie are minor at best.
Yeah. Even the packaging of Microsoft's Xbox Adaptive Controller is accessible.
Yeah, I thought this was kind of cool. So, the Xbox Adaptive Controller is coming out in September. You can pre-order it now from Microsoft. I think it's $99.99. It's designed for people with physical disabilities so that they can play video games. They actually designed the packaging to be as accessible as the product itself, if you will. So, in other words, someone who might need this thing could actually open the box and not kill themselves because there's all these, twist ties and plastic hard bits and I don't remember the exact phrase they use, but there's literally a term in this industry where these people often have to turn to their teeth to get through some kind of a hard packed package, that you can never rip these things open or whatever, and it's awful, So this thing kind of unfolds like a unfolds, I think maybe is the right word. It's almost like you pull a string and the thing just kind of plops open in front of you or whatever. But
that's nice.
It looks really cool, like the way they did it.
Good
It's
for
nice.
them. Yeah, that's really good.
All right, Mary Jo, sorry about that.
It's okay.
So
now we get Xbox out of the way. So.
it's out of the way.
Yeah.
So now
Oh,
we're going to go
that's
to the
why you
next
did it.
most exciting topic of the day, Berlin.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you anything fun about Berlin, but I did visit the Microsoft. Well, I should say one of two Microsoft offices. The last time I was here, I visited the other one. There's a development office that they have that used to be the home of Wunderlist. It's out behind. Why did I even try to say the name? Alexanderplatz, I think, where the TV tower is. It's over in that area. Microsoft has 2 floors of a building. Yeah, that thing. So Marcus Ashe is a guy we both know, and Brad knows really well. Is from worked at Microsoft in Seattle, and actually was on the Cortana team for several years, and was looking to do something new. I can't imagine why. And kind of randomly, someone said, "Hey, would you ever consider moving to Berlin?"
Wait
and
a
this is
minute. Sorry, you got to explain this.
I know that picture. What is going
He's
on
at the
there?
Ddr Museum, which is East Germany, right?
Right. So the Ddr Museum gives you a peek into what life was like in East Germany during the wall, the Berlin Wall period or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. But one of the coolest things is they have various rooms from typical apartments. And it's like, a kitchen, a kid's bedroom or whatever. And so this is like a teenager's bedroom or a bedroom of some kind. And there's actually kind of a little AR thing going on with a mirror.
Oh.
And what you can do is you pull an outfit off of the rack you can see there on the left, and it uses a camera to kind of let you see what you would look like wearing that outfit.
You look
And
good.
so I walked in and so there was some girls in there trying on this outfit, and I walked in behind them and I was like, "Oh, I'm taking a picture of this." So
Right.
the reason my hands look like that is because I'm using the camera on my phone,
Oh, and it doesn't show up.
which you can't see. Yeah.
You also found your new computer.
Mm-hmm. Missing a space bar.
Yeah. And
That is what I believe is a Microsoft Service table. There's my Nespresso machine. Yeah, this is a nice little peek at my vacation.
Yeah.
So
back to Marcus Ashe.
back to Marcus. So Marcus runs this team over here, and I'm actually not 100% sure everything that they do, but they do Microsoft To Do. They do sticky notes, which is actually part of my little mini scoop. And some other things. And by the way, you might know this already, Mary Jo. I didn't know this until you mentioned it.
Paul's
They
strangely obsessed with espresso machines.
There's milk powder. That's milk powder.
Oh, it's mixing it in. Yeah.
That is not okay.
Needs no refrigeration.
No, that's not good.
The
That is not okay.
Inconsistency board.
I actually heard from a guy who works for the company that makes that machine, and he assures me that they make a version with milk and that Microsoft chose this.
But you have to refrigerate the whole machine.
Yeah, so we were, oddly enough, right after this happened, we stopped to get drinks, and the restaurant or whatever it was had this machine very much like that. It was clearly made by the same company with that blue light on the side. And there was a hose that came out of a refrigerator that was white because it was pumping milk into the machine. And my daughter pointed it out, and she says, "See, Microsoft just needs one of those things."
By the way, the company is
And I said,
William F. Fraser. Who, and by the way, I used to live in his house.
What? Really?
It's a long story, but he emigrated to California and lived in Santa Cruz. He became an organic farm hippie. He dropped out in the 60s. Fraser continues. They make stainless steel and appliances and all sorts of stuff, WMF.
Okay.
But,
I hear they're very high quality.
But I lived in his house, and his daughter or wife, Margaret Fraser, was the sole U.S. distributor of the Birkenstock sandal.
Oh wow!
So when we moved into that house, the garage was literally filled with tens of thousands of Birkenstock catalogs.
Wow.
Okay,
And,
so
I was a kid.
This is getting a little weird.
It's going to get weirder. I was a kid because the catalog in those days, Birkenstock is like a health shoe sandal, and it molds to your feet. It's got cork that molds to your feet. And so in the back of the catalog, they had a special blotter paper that you were supposed to get your foot wet and step on and then mail it to them. And since I was
make a custom one.
Yeah. And since I was 14, I did that thousands of times. I just kept doing it because we had a lot of those catalogs. Anyway,
Right.
Just a little side note to your coffee machine adventure.
So two random asides to that story. My daughter today complained that she had a Birkenstock tan, or actually a burn, because she was, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Also, when she pointed out that Microsoft should just get that tube of milk, I said, I have bad news for you, Kelly. You were not the first Thurrott to tell Microsoft what they should do.
She's following in Dad's Birkenstock-clad footprints. But you know what? The tip that Dad should have passed along is, hey, just wear socks with your Birkenstocks. You won't get a tan.
That's right. Yeah. The face my daughter would make at that suggestion would be horrifying.
So did they know that you were taking pictures of their whiteboard, Paul?
I literally asked if it was okay. And they said no. And I said, well, screw you guys. I'm taking it anyway. And now I'm going to post it on social media. No, they asked.
What's grass?
I said, actually, that whiteboard thing, I looked at that and I said, what you should do with this list is put it in Microsoft To Do.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be simple? Or maybe,
actually,
why don't you get one of those Surface Hub things?
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually do have one in the meeting room. So there are logistical problems, when you get a team in Berlin and you get people in other offices around the world, of course, the main office in Redmond, and they have some interesting solutions for that kind of stuff. But they do have a meeting room with a Surface Hub specifically for that kind of thing, where they're going to be meeting with other people and so forth. Grass, they have meeting rooms that are named after the themes in Wunderlist. So Grass was one of the big themes. There's one called Kitty.
Oh. Are you sure they're not Pokemon types?
Mm-hmm.
I am positive.
Okay.
Yep.
Just check. Okay.
So we're kind of walking around, and so I learned he works for Laura Butler, which I didn't know. And
wow, is that in Berlin or is that in
That's
New York?
in New York.
Okay.
That sound.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
They have air-on chairs even in Germany. That's nice.
Yep. Yeah. So two things from this trip.
Michigan.
The point of this picture. Yeah. So 2 weeks before my trip, a package arrived in the mail with my name on it. So of course I opened it up, and
exciting.
Inside was a T-shirt that I had not ordered. And then Brad texted me or hit me on Skype and said, hey, by the way, I sent you something from Amazon. I want you to bring this out to Berlin and give it to Marcus. I'm like, okay. So I held on to this thing for 2 weeks, packed it in my bag, brought it to Sweden, packed it in the bag, I brought it to Berlin.
Wow.
I carted this thing like 4,000 miles from home.
Wow.
Several hours on an airplane.
Wow.
Delighted to finally hand this thing off to Marcus. He looked at it, and then he spit up whatever he was drinking. The T-shirt that Brad gave him was from Ohio State.
Oh!
He is a Michigan fan.
Oh!
And I was the deliverer of a prank.
Nice.
Burn.
Yeah. Like, yep.
Terrible.
So I said to Marcus, you can solve this problem. I said, what you got to do is take a series of photographs with the shirt. For example, you could be handing it to a homeless person that doesn't want it.
And they could
or
be
you could,
refusing it.
Light it on fire.
That would be awesome. There's lots
Find
of
one of
things.
those like garbage cans that has like overflowed all onto the ground and just like leave it hanging out of the side.
Nice. Nice.
So we'll see what he does with it. The ball's in his court, so to speak.
What's this? Polaroid photo wall?
Yeah. So these are all people who worked at Wunderlist. I guess they're all kind of old pictures. As is the case in any industry, like, Mary Jo and I run into people we know all the time. Sometimes people move between publications, but it's kind of a family of people. There's a real startup culture in Berlin, and so even a lot of those people are still there, but some of them who are gone, went off to work at Facebook or wherever else, and they maybe work in some other country in Europe or even the United States, whatever. But they come back to Berlin, and they come and visit, and they talk about what they're working on, and they give them, the Microsoft guys now on Microsoft To Do, advice about what they're doing, and it's kind of a little family thing, and so they kind of went through some of the stories.
By the way, the T-shirt anecdote is actually the subject of First Ring Daily for yesterday.
Yeah, Brad was delighted to hear the story. He couldn't have been happier.
Yeah.
That,
the care
the
package
thought that I
delivered.
might be murdered in Berlin just made this thing even better for him. So,
See, Marcus, this must be before you gave him the T-shirt.
yeah. So, it was like
Nice.
90 degrees outside.
It looks hot. It looks really hot.
So we're walking around, and he's kind of, here's what this is, and here's what this, this is who this person is, and everything. And he was talking about sticky notes, right? And it's kind of a weird coincidence because I have this book that that I write, the Windows 10 field guide, and I just updated it for the Windows Ink stuff. And one of the Windows Ink topics is sticky notes and everything. And this is a little app, that's kind of matured a lot over the years. It's kind of interesting. And so there's a lot of Cortana capabilities built into sticky notes now, which I do know about. So, for example, if you write or type a phone number, it will become a hyperlink, and if you click on it, you can call that number with Skype. If you write an address, you can click on it, it will open a Maps, that kind of stuff. And it's kind of interesting, this stuff like that. But as he was talking, I realized there's some stuff I didn't really completely understand. Like sticky notes probably debuted in Windows. I'm gonna get this wrong, but I want to say in Windows Vista. But sticky notes was a desktop application, and they completely rewrote it as a UWP application at some point in Windows 10. And I don't know if it was the first version of Windows 10 or whatever. And so I didn't really know that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, And we walked by. There was a guy, a developer in a cage, it was a little feed thing. You can put nuts in, and you can eat the nuts, and it's like a zoo. And I said, well, it was. So
okay.
I'm just making sure everyone's paying attention.
By the way, I just want to point out, after he fed the squirrel nuts, they turned it into Schweinshaxe.
Yeah, it's important that you eat this if you come to Germany.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mary Jo.
What is that?
That is offensive as hell.
Pork knuckle.
Pork knuckle.
Pork
this is
knuckle?
one of the greatest.
Schweinshaxe, right?
Guys, no.
It's amazing.
That is a good meal. It's a Schweinhock.
You can get this just boiled. This particular one was later, baked or braised or whatever.
Yeah, much better.
This is the better way to do it.
Yeah.
You can get this in a soup.
And Mary Jo, just throw the hock out and eat the potatoes, because that looks really good. Those potatoes look good.
Yeah, the potatoes look all right.
Kartoffel. Yeah.
So, I looking through the cage of this animal, this developer, I saw he had it was an iPhone 10, I think, in a what do you call it? Like an emulator on screen, and it had sticky notes on it. And I said, what's going on over there? I said, are you guys doing like a mobile version of sticky notes? And he says, yeah. And I said, he says, yeah. He said, yeah. He sort of indicated it had been out for a while or something. I'm saying, this isn't out now. And he's like, oh. He goes, yeah, okay. I guess it's coming out soon or whatever. And I said, Can I talk about that? And he goes, yeah. It was like it was common knowledge. I'm like, I don't think anyone knows this.
What is it?
So I don't really. Sticky Notes is an app that's in Windows 10.
Oh, you mentioned this
Sticky
before.
Notes. Did I?
Oh, maybe not.
But it's Sticky Notes for iPhone and Android?
Oh, it's for Android. Oh.
Yeah. So, in other words, this is going to be another point of cross-device integration.
I like this.
And it makes sense.
Will they go to my Windows machine if I make a sticky note on my phone?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
think
about this is how you overcome the fact that you're not on mobile, right? So
is
you
that,
take
is
a
that
note
on this whiteboard?
No, that's I believe is about Look Mobile, not about.
Okay.
So it makes sense, right? So you jot down a note, right? Maybe you're using a Surface tablet, you wrote it with your pen or whatever, and maybe it's a list, eggs, milk, butter, whatever, But then you go to the store, you're not carrying your Surface around the store, you're carrying your iPhone, and so that makes sense.
Yeah, I like it. I like it because right now when I do a shopping list for the grocery store, I do it in OneNote. It's like the one time I use OneNote for something, and I'm like, I need something lighter than OneNote to do this, right?
We were kind of talking about the awfulness of Twitter. He pointed out the woman who kind of handles their social media stuff, and I said, does she get like free psychological counseling? I mean, Twitter is like such a hellhole,
I know.
And no, he said, look, our attitude is like, even the people are terrible to us. It's like, look, we appreciate you pointing out this feedback, and they have a really positive spin on everything. And he says a lot of times it's disarming to people when they're terrible to you if you're just nice back. And I'm like, yeah, that works great. I assume I'm never going to do that, but I'm a terrible human being. But that's cool. And later in the later on or whatever, I don't remember when, but we were kind of talking about. It was after the sticky notes thing, and I said, the one problem you guys have, and then I sort of prefaced it with, and I want to make sure all feedback is good, right? Like you're, I said, across Microsoft, you have all these to-do things, like sticky notes. Sticky notes, you start doing little dashes, you're making a list. It's kind of a to-do list right there.
It is.
There's a to-do functionality built into Outlook.com. There's tasks that are built into Outlook. Outlook on the web and so forth. There's the Microsoft To Do, which is a mobile app.
Right.
Planner.
Planner is another app.
To do at scale. So I said, you guys need to consolidate all that stuff. And we didn't talk about this kind of future, and I don't know this for sure, but if you think about it, I mentioned earlier that, and this is why I mentioned it, sticky notes today, which is not, most people probably don't think too much about. It's just kind of sitting there in Windows or whatever. They've built these Cortana capabilities into it. I mean, I want to be clear about this. I didn't hear this, but it is very possible that maybe they are going to use the same backend for all of these things, and that you may want to use sticky notes or whatever, but shouldn't that be something that could come into Microsoft to do, or vice versa? Like, there shouldn't be 5 or 7 or 10 different ways to do the same thing. So I think making a sticky notes mobile client makes tons of sense. Having one thing, would make
I like
even more
the
sense.
one thing idea. I hope that happens, because right now they're totally not the same thing, and they don't work the same way.
Right.
They don't sync with each other, right? I mean,
Yep.
maybe that's why Marcus's new title is, what is he, like director of tasks at Microsoft? Maybe tasks is like
I'm not even sure. Yeah.
thing, like a unified platform
Director
thing.
of tasks.
I think that's his job, isn't it? Something like that.
I think there are a lot of examples of this at Microsoft where there's probably a goal, and then there's this kind of reality. Like, I sort of feel like Microsoft should have like one thing that is Outlook, and that it just kind of spans the range of all their stuff. And I'm sure vaguely they have this notion, like, it would be cool if we could consolidate this down. But I'm sure from Microsoft's from Microsoft's standpoint, we have 7 or 9 or 10 or whatever Outlook clients. If we could get it down to 3, that'd be really good. And I don't know tasks and then to do. I don't know what the goal is there, to be honest. But anyway, they're doing good work. And the one thing that has changed, it's funny, I never had this conversation with him. I meant to. There was a period of time where Microsoft To Do was kind of wallowing there, and it wasn't really improving. And I think it might have been, frankly, just a lack of leadership over there. And since he's been there this year, we've noticed a sudden and very dramatic uptick in updates to Microsoft To Do, especially on the mobile side. And that's what people have been asking for. And there's a big to-do list, that they still have to improve the product for sure. And they, I think their number one goal short term is to get it up to snuff with what Wunderlist was from a functional standpoint. But they have a way of doing good things with stuff. And they took over Minecraft, and they really went in the right direction with that. They took over Wunderlist, and there was a little market for themes that people could buy themes and everything, and they made all that free. And I think the for whatever it's worth, I don't personally use a To Do app because I tend to think in terms of calendar, and I like having the one thing for everything. But it's a beautiful app. Like, it's a really nice app. You can access it on the web or on a mobile device, whatever. It's nice. It is really nice.
Yeah. I wish I thought like that. I don't use any To Do apps because that's just not the way I work.
How do you know what to do?
I have a calendar that I check. Yeah, I'm not really a list person at all.
Right.
Except for food shopping. That's a list, but
you have to make a list with that. Well, the sticky notes would work for that.
Yeah.
Can you share them with other people?
You mean like tasks in Microsoft?
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, the big competitor on this is probably Google Keep, which you can share with other people. It's it's available on every device. It's got. And
by the way, I don't personally like Google Keep that much. It's one of those many things I kind of reevaluate from time to time. But if you think about what that visually resembles,
it's sticky notes.
It's Post-it notes.
Yeah,
sticky notes.
No, that's what made me think of it. Yeah. It looks like notes.
Yeah.
But it has some really nice features. You can say, when I hit this location, pop this up. I don't use it as much as I should probably, but it's there.
Yeah, location-based triggering is really cool. I mean, they understand what the market is and where they need to be and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because it's probably hard to monetize this. Because it's free
right. Well, I mean,
for everything.
But the goal is to get people under the umbrella,
right.
And this is like making Teams free in a way. It's, are we going to make any money on this guy? Not necessarily, but what if this business grows and those guys adopt Office 365? It's a win. I would say the same thing is true here. I mean, you could upgrade them, along the path.
Note is set to trigger when I enter this market. It automatically put the picture of the market there. I could share
That's
it.
great.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That's really nice.
That's
Yeah.
really
No,
nice.
it is really nice.
Yeah.
Do you mind going back? I don't know if there's anything embarrassing there, but if you look at the kind of grid of notes you have down there.
Buying 2 pounds of butcher's bacon is embarrassing.
Well, I mean, can you close that thing? There's something about the UI for this app where it looks like a bunch of sticky notes. Where
you can make them different colors, all of that.
Yeah, I don't.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I thought like that. I just can't. I don't.
Yeah, not either.
I look at that like I'm going to organize this grid of colored squares. I don't know. For some reason, that's.
No,
not
I know what you're
appealing to
saying.
me.
Yeah.
But I love that you're doing it. Like I wish my head was oriented that way. I just can't. I don't know.
Well, the irony is I have that. I don't really. I mean, I have too many of these.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
And like Mary Jo, I don't really need them. I don't use them. I think Google Keep though is increasingly mature and powerful. That's where I feel
a lot
like
of people swear by it, and it's like I said, it's one of those things I go back and look at again and again partly because I read so much about it where it's like, oh, this thing has really changed my life,
Right.
But you get that kind of stuff with the OneNote too. I mean, people.
I think if you just pick one,
discover these things. Yeah. I don't know. To me, the biggest win when it comes to a computer or a phone is not when I get to add an app; it's when I get to take one away.
Right.
Having less is pretty great.
Well, I'll look at Microsoft's sticky notes. I shall. Moving right along. Office on parade. Jolly office on parade.
So yesterday also was a red letter day, not just because of the most boring game in the world coming to the Xbox One.
Although, by the way, I bought it. It's not.
See, you bought it anyway.
It's not on Game Pass, and
I
thought,
feel like Mary Jo has not given this game
it could be your game, Mary Jo.
You guys said it was the worst. I'm going with your review.
But we're thinking.
It's terrible, but you would love it.
You would love it. Yeah, we're thinking since you don't like the good games, like Call of Duty and Fortnite, maybe you want something a little calmer, a little more peaceful. There's probably kitty cats in it.
Guys, you know what I really do love though?
What?
Office Server 2019.
God bless you. Go ahead, tell us all about it.
Now, so yesterday, for people who don't want to or cannot put all their workloads in the cloud, who use things like Exchange, SharePoint, Skype for Business Server, and Project Server. Yesterday was a red letter day for you because Microsoft released the first preview of these on-premises versions of the 2019 releases of all of those products. The only one that's still not out, I believe, is Project Server. That may be coming in a relatively short time. But all these other servers are now out in public preview. So if you are somebody who needs to use Exchange or Skype for Business or SharePoint inside your own firewall on premises, you don't want to use the cloud version, you should go kick the tires of these. They're out now in preview. They're going to be out for general availability later this year, probably in the fall timeframe. And the thing to know about these is there's nothing brand new in them if you already know what's in the cloud version of Exchange, Skype, SharePoint, and Project. What this is a catch-up. It gives some of the features that are in the cloud versions to people who use the on-premises version. So if you use Exchange Server 2016, there's going to be a lot new for you because you're going to see several key features that are only available to Office 365 users now in the on-premises version. Not everything, but some things. So yeah, it was a big day for people who care about things like, SharePoint, things close to my heart. Not PUBG.
PUBG, look at her talking the gaming lingo.
Look at me slinging the game terminology.
Look at that.
Look at that.
I like PUBG.
Yeah.
I'm excited about Outlook.com's dark mode.
Do you guys use dark mode much?
No, but it's all the rage with the kids.
I know, it's all the rage.
I don't think that Microsoft does dark mode particularly well. And
Paul's
if you look
actually
at the
in
way
dark
Apple,
mode right now. It's getting.
Yeah, I was going to
What
say.
time is it? Night there. I know.
Last night in this hotel, I looked outside and it was darker. It was probably 11 o'clock-ish, maybe closer to midnight, but it was darker than it had ever been in Stockholm.
Well, yeah, you're farther south.
And
you know how that works, right?
No, I know I get the world's round and everything, but it's right now. I would say we are at what I would call full dark.
Full dark.
Oh, boy. Full dark Boston.
It's
Stockholm
it's about
stuff.
9 p.m. there right now.
It is 9, almost 10. It's 10 of 10.
Almost 10.
And this right now, as dark as it is, and it's gotten darker as we've done the show, it is as dark as Stockholm has ever gotten since we've been here.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So it's actually going to get dark, but it is not.
My friend, you are in the land of the midnight sun.
Yeah.
That's why they call it
it's
that.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anywho,
that's why
so,
Swedish people are crazy. Not in the summer. They're really nice and happy in the summer, but go visit them in the winter, and you really want to see something dark.
Yeah. Ooh,
This is probably the wrong word, but Stockholm, there's because there's been such beautiful weather, or even a heat wave, which is actually kind of hard. I guess there are fires everywhere because things are dry and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
There's kind of a fun overreaction to good weather here because they don't really get it a lot, and
Right,
so
they take off all their clothes and run around.
Yeah, there's a lot of public nudity happening here. Is what I'm trying to say. It is it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, same in Finland and in Iceland, all these northerly countries. When you get sunshine, man, wow, the party starts.
Yep, for sure.
Yep. Hamburg is like
and
that.
If you as a kid had the rule like I did, where you had to come home when the sun went down, you're never coming home.
Out all night. Mom, it never came down.
Yeah, or the street lights come on. The street lights come on in Stockholm at about midnight. So you're going to be out for a while.
Wow. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. It's weird.
That.
So anyway.
Outlook, we were just talking about dark mode in Outlook. I don't know if there's more to say about it.
So when Outlook.com arrived as the replacement for Hotmail, at whatever year that was, there was a redesign that was part of it. And ever since then, Microsoft has been working on the second redesign, and that just shipped. So it's been a while. It took them many, many years. It's been available in beta for anybody who wanted it for several months now. There's a switch up in the corner. You can just get the new look and feel. I think it looks great. And I think it looks so great that when you go to the Office 365 version of this stuff and it looks like antiquated by comparison. But I guess it's now live. So it's live. If you use Outlook.com, this is what you get now. And as part of that going live, they added one of the top requested features, which is a dark mode. So it is exactly what you think it is. It looks okay. The issue I have with dark mode on the Microsoft side is more with Windows 10, which I think does it in a very slapdash way, where you can still get giant blocks of white on screen depending on what window you're looking at. All right, so let's see what happens. I've not actually even looked at this. I just looked at the picture.
Where do I? Oh, I see. Customize your Outlook.
There you go.
And I got themes, right? And
yep.
Well, no, that's not it. Oh, there's dark mode. Whoa! Yep. Holy mackerel, Andy. That is beautiful.
So here's the thing, and I think anyone who uses a mobile device would probably sort of at least semi-agree with this. I think there are more sophisticated things you can do with the display to account for things like the loss of light or the time of day or whatever it is.
Yeah,
and
obviously there's Apple's doing it a little bit, right?
Yes, and I think the way they're doing it is maybe the most sophisticated way. And I think it's one of those things we're going to get there kind of everywhere. The OnePlus 6, the OnePlus 5T before it, maybe the OnePlus 5. I don't remember when this debuted. They have a special mode that's unique to them called reading mode. And it basically turns the screen into kind of a grayscale experience while you're in that app that you say should be in reading mode. So if you use the Kindle app or the Google Play Books app or whatever, when you launch that app, the screen actually changes. And then when you go back out to go do something else, the color returns, and it does it very gradually.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I love that. Yeah,
it's a really neat effect. Yeah. To me, manually turning a dark mode on and off is kind of ham-handed, and it's particularly poorly done in Windows, where not all apps respect that setting. So by default, for example, if you put your system into dark mode, you launch Edge, it's in light mode. And it's goofy to me that these things aren't a little more sophisticated. So I like that it's there. It's cool, and people ask for it. That's great. But I think collectively, Microsoft's offerings like this need to do something a little more sophisticated eventually.
I think we could probably now. I've been holding off. But I think we can now.
How did this one make it to the back?
I put it at the end just because I was like, you know what? It was a week ago.
It was right after the show last week.
I sort of feel like Mary Jo looked at this and said, I'm going to do this exactly the opposite of how I would normally do it.
No.
It should be our lead story, but Microsoft made $1 billion last year. No,
100 billion. More than 100 billion.
More than 110 billion.
I know. First time they crossed the 100 billion threshold.
So this is Q4, the Q4 earnings, which means it's also the fiscal year 2018.
Yep.
Entire year earnings. So tell us what it all means, Mary Jo. Tell us.
Well, Paul and I both lament this all the time, but the biggest category for them for their year was commercial cloud, which is a made-up category. I'm
sorry. I feel like I've imposed this on you. You can.
No, it's true. It's true.
Okay. I just feel bad. This is like every quarter.
Every time we do earnings, we say this.
You must sit there clenched waiting for the Skype thing because you know I'm going to be there in the morning on Friday.
No. Anyway. What's commercial cloud again? Why do we keep talking about commercial cloud? Well, it's this category.
Yeah.
Azure, Office 365, Dynamics 365. Basically, any of the pure cloud plays from Microsoft is in this bucket, and that in fiscal 2018 brought in 23 billion of that 100 billion in revenues. So that was a big bucket. The problem is we don't really know how much of anything is in that bucket. We don't know how big Azure is. We think Office 365 is the biggest piece, but we don't exactly know how big that is either. Dynamics 365, we just know like year over year growth. So we don't, it's kind of like this category. We know in theory what they're trying to measure here, but it's not a real thing. And it doesn't correspond to any of their business units. That was probably the biggest piece of their revenues. But the other parts that did really well, Windows in Q4 did great.
Yep.
Because the PC market wasn't tanking and they sold a lot of professional licenses, commercial business licenses of Windows. So that doesn't really go with the story they want to tell these days about Microsoft. They want to tell like Windows, it's kind of a dying business and the cloud is where everything is at. Well, they actually had a great quarter and a pretty great year overall for Windows. I don't know exactly
record
what that brought in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It gets under your skin. Surface brought in 4.6 billion for the year. Yeah. Good.
Good. But
LinkedIn.
The quarter you're comparing it to a year ago is terrible.
I know.
So,
last year they didn't.
Kind of an artificial bounce. They actually even admitted to that. At least I give them credit for that.
They did. LinkedIn brought in 5 billion. LinkedIn is such a weird thing. They bought LinkedIn for 26 billion in 2016. They still haven't really integrated a lot of LinkedIn into Microsoft.
Is that 5 billion the year or the quarter?
The year.
Oh.
Yeah, LinkedIn. Yeah. I'm never going to be able to do the math on LinkedIn because it's a lot of negative numbers, and I don't understand how they multiply to add up to it. This purchase made sense.
Yeah, I'm still curious. Maybe someday when they start really integrating LinkedIn's graph into the Microsoft graph, and you see more of that combined property surfacing, it'll make more sense. But right now, they kind of just leave LinkedIn over there and let them do their own thing.
The weird thing about LinkedIn is they actually kind of spell it out, right? So we actually get a level of transparency there that we don't see elsewhere at Microsoft. So, and I don't know why that is, but they talk about it's basically a cost of revenue kind of thing, and you can see that there's a loss associated with LinkedIn every quarter. And so for I don't know how long have they been doing this? A year now, or 6 quarters, whatever it is. LinkedIn historically, for that short period of time, has typically lost somewhere in the $250 million range each quarter. This quarter, I don't remember the number, but it was less. It was under 200. It was 170 something. I don't know.
Yeah, they're losing less money. Yay!
They're losing less money. Yeah, it's the Windows Phone model. No, I don't know.
I don't think it'll be that. But the other thing that brought in a lot of money is gaming. 10 billion for the year. Yeah. In revenues. You're going to say something contrary. Profits? Yeah. Do we know?
No,
And
it's never
is
made
that
money.
hardware or just games, or is that hardware and software?
Leo, there is a list of things that constitutes Microsoft's gaming business. And let's say there are 20 items on that list, running the gamut from particular Xbox consoles, games, services, Minecraft, whatever it might be, peripherals. Every quarter they spin a roulette wheel, and whatever comes up positive, they'll pick out the two little details they want to tell you, and they'll say something like, the average number of users that an Xbox Live customer spends playing games or engaged with the service went up 12% in the quarter compared to the same quarter a year ago.
I know, so you don't really know.
There's nothing that you can't compare it to anything. So I don't know what it means. I know. This is the pain of Microsoft for me.
Yeah. The other thing that does well every quarter, and analysts are perplexed, and I got to admit, I'm still kind of perplexed on this too, is their server products are continuing to sell really well, right? SQL Server on premises, Windows Server on premises. You would think at some point the cloud would start eating into this, but it's not happening. I mean, so far it's just not happening. And it's great for them that it's not happening, right? But
so let's talk about digital transformations for a moment, shall we?
Yeah, let's. No, let's not.
Well, no, I mean, it's an interesting thing, and every company experiences this at some point. The Microsoft has this existing stable of products and services that today are a little old-fashioned, but they generate a lot of revenues and profits. And I think that those things are, in fact, what's driving this company forward right now. However, Microsoft also has a story to sell Wall Street about how digital transformation in the cloud and how we're, the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. And my God, is it resonating? I looked at the article I wrote a year ago when I talked about this topic. Microsoft stock at the time was selling it in the $56 range. It was a big jump from the Steve Ballmer days when it was stuck in the $30 to $35 range for 15 years. So today, Microsoft stock is over $100. I think it was 100. I don't remember the exact. Yeah, it was 110. Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, so it's working, right? In other words, I can sit here and kind of complain that they're cherry picking data points and blah, blah, blah. I don't know where the money's coming from. It's kind of like a, not show me the money, but show me where the profits come kind of complaint. We're not going to get that data. I think a lot of it is coming from traditional server products. It's coming from Windows. I think the reason that Windows is making money right now is commercial side, it's the pro side. So consumer piece, Windows licenses actually fell by 3 or 4% in the quarter. I don't remember what it was. Yeah. Gartner and IDC, when they talked about PC market share a week ago, specifically mentioned this upgrade cycle that's finally starting to occur for Windows 10, where businesses are upgrading to Windows 10. And so I think this is what's happening. I think I described it last week as possibly the last big upgrade that we're going to see on the Windows front end. Who knows? But so that's happening. It is odd to me, and it's somewhat ironic, that if you look at Microsoft's 3 business units, the one that made the most in revenues, again, was more personal computing, which is Windows, Surface, and Xbox. I mean, it's crazy. Now, granted, the other 2 business units are both in some way cloud-related, and those together obviously are bigger than more personal computing.
And their profits are growing more quickly also.
They are growing quickly, and I will hazard the guess that sometime in the current fiscal year, one or both, well, one of them at least, will surpass more personal computing from a revenue and or profit perspective.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, that will happen. But that's the point of this transition. It's like I use Apple as the example. Back when the Apple IIe was selling gangbusters, all they were talking about was the Mac. They were trying to get this next big thing off the ground, and that thing was not selling for some number of years. Microsoft is in that position now. The difference between Microsoft of today and the Microsoft under Steve Ballmer is that this messaging, the stuff that Mary Jo and I kind of cringe a little bit over, the accessible stuff and the where the people, we're about emotions and not logic and blah, 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 all this stuff that I think is nonsense. Guess what? It's working. This message is resonating. And it doesn't hurt that they just had a $110 billion quarter. No. Where does that money come from? No one seems to be asking. I'm an idiot. I'm not a financial guy. No one seems to care about this. I feel like I'm out there with a little white flag, like, hello, anybody? I have a question. And no one's answering. No one cares. No. So good for them. They're doing great.
The one number we didn't get, I thought we heard it during the call about the earnings, but I was wrong. I thought they were going to finally say Windows 10 has hit the 700 million active device number.
Of course
it
it has.
still hasn't hit it. Why?
So I have a theory about this. This figure was not a figure, but a phrase. It was the nearly 700 million, or whatever the phrase was.
Yeah.
Was first uttered by Terry Myerson back in, I believe, late March. If not, it was early April. And I've come to the conclusion that Terry does not understand how numbers work, because this is the guy who said the billion thing, and then they had to some number of months later say, yes, just kidding, that's not going to happen. You know, it is impossible that a product that is growing at a monthly rate that Windows 10 is growing at was at nearly 700 million, and let's call it April 1st, and is not at well over 700 million on August 1st. It is impossible. So I can't explain this. Every time Microsoft releases a new number for Windows 10, I compare it to the old number, obviously, but I also look at the average monthly uptick of that thing, and I can see whether the growth is getting faster or slowing down. And we've seen a little bit of both in the 3 years since Windows 10 has been out. But the trend over the past two milestones, because they don't match up to quarters. Look at that. It's like a Wookiee got in front of the camera. That thing was so big, I was scared there was something in front of me here in Berlin. Anyway, was accelerating. And so I believe at the last time, when I think, I don't know if it was 600 million or 650, whatever the number was, but the average monthly uptick in new active devices running Windows 10 was almost 17 million a month. So I don't know what nearly means, necessarily. It's obviously not a fixed thing, but if they were at nearly on April 1 and there's 17 million in April, 17 million in May, 17 million in June, July, what is that, 35? That's almost 70 million. It's impossible that they're not over 700 million. Where did those people go?
You know what I am guessing happened there is maybe they weren't tracking the number correctly. And so they gave an inflated figure before, and now they're trying to catch up and fix it. But I don't know that for a fact, because nobody will tell you what's going on when you ask.
My alternate reality version of this is Terry was like, I want to show some momentum with Windows. How are we doing over there? And they're like 610 million. And he goes, I'm going to say nearly 700 million. And they're like, Terry, that doesn't make any sense. And he's like, 610 is nearly 700.
No, it's
not. Compared to 500.
Well, yeah. It's also nearly 600.
I'm just making this up. I have no idea. I literally can't explain it.
No, and
because
no one
I
will
look
tell
at
you
numbers
when you
and
ask.
I do math and
no.
Anyway,
we may never
700
understand
million.
How Microsoft makes money.
It's still a big number. It's a big number.
It's a big
There's
number.
A lot of people running.
Yep.
This is a big number for one version of Windows too. I mean, that's the important thing.
Right.
Windows 7 still has a huge install base. Windows 8 does not, but there's still Windows 8, whatever users out there. The potential for this thing to hit 1 billion is huge. Obviously, it's going to happen. So it is one of those matter of time things. But it is curious to me that I don't know.
Yeah. Same.
Good. All right. So that sums it up, right? Nothing more to say.
Yeah.
It was a great quarter.
Great year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great quarter.
It's astonishing. It's astonishing. And actually, in tied to their stock price thing, one of the big changes that's occurred over the past few quarters was they were very comfortably in a spot where they were earning 4 to 6 million in profits on 20 to 25 million in revenue. And that has exploded. And what was the number? I don't have the thing in front of me, but what was it? What was the revenues this past quarter? 34, maybe something like that.
Oh,
and
I'm not sure. Sorry.
And their profits are in the high single digit. It was 7, 8, 9, somewhere up there. These things are going up.
Yeah.
And for all the talk of they're the next IBM, and and for all my complaints about where's the money coming from, whatever, the money isn't just coming. It's like it's expanding.
Yeah.
So like I said earlier, they're doing something right. I have no idea what it is.
I think they had a major sales reorg last year when they had all those layoffs. And there could be something to that, that they've changed the way they're selling and approaching it differently. That may be playing in here too, as far as why it's growing so much faster now. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
We're just guessing here.
I would like for Amy Hood to sit me down with like an Excel spreadsheet and just point out how Excel works, because I literally have no idea.
Then she can explain non-GAAP accounting.
Oh no,
Yes,
we don't want to hear that.
Right, please don't. Oh, please don't. Is this going to end? Are we going to go past non-GAAP GAAP? Are we ever going to get by this? Are we? Because I have to tell you, I find this to be very distracting.
It is very hard to follow when they're talking about their earnings. This is GAAP. This is not GAAP. What you're comparing. Yep.
I know. It's not my. This is not a Microsoft thing.
It's not
I know
our
they're
forte.
not using this.
Neither of us. It's our forte.
It absolutely is not my forte. And could it go away? I'm really getting tired of it.
Let us break and then come back and talk about your tips and picks of the week. What do you say?
Sounds good.
All right. It's time for a little coffee break in Berlin. While we talk about a way to give every IT person listening today a break in their life. If you're the person who gets the alerts, and I think probably we all are, right? You know it can be like a pinball game. When all the lights, the computer and the phone light up like Christmas trees with all these alerts, most of which are related to something that happened, but that something that happened is buried deep within the alerts, and then there's all these side effects. You've got to, as quickly as possible, comb through this rubbish to find the pony. Or you could let Moogsoft find the pony for you. No mere mortal can analyze all those alerts and respond to all those tickets, and you don't want to, you don't have to, but Moogsoft AI Ops can. And you don't even have to train it. You don't have to give it rules. It learns, it watches you. Of course, it's got a bunch of intelligence built in, but then as you go, it goes, oh. Reduce your IT alerts and tickets by up to, get this, 90%. Guaranteed. You'll only see actionable work items, not all the chaff that goes along with the thing you got to work on. What they do is they cluster events, all the things that happen to correlated situations. And this is the thing, the machine learning is learning, this is all a piece of a puzzle of a situation. You don't have to look at another alert or ticket ever again. You just go, what's the situation? Let's fix it. It was developed for the enterprise not because they want to take your job, because they love you and they want you to do your job better. They want to turn you into a hero. No rules, no filters, no models. You don't have to do any additional work. It just integrates with your existing tools. Moogsoft AI Ops, they have your back. They're not here to replace you. They're here to make you a support hero. Thanks to machine learning, they'll lower the frequency and duration of repeat incidents. You will get back to doing what you do best. Now, I'm talking to two different audiences here. I'm talking to the poor fella or gal who has to respond to all those. You know you want this. Now, let me talk to the boss, the person who's got to buy it. This is why you want it. First of all, you get a demo for free, okay? But let me tell you about a company called HCL Technologies. This is one of the companies that uses Moogsoft AI Ops. They actually have it built in as the event management layer of their dry ice platform. They are a managed IT service provider. So that means they do IT for a lot of people, a lot of companies. That means a lot of alerts. They say that Moogsoft AI Ops in the dry ice platform has helped its clients streamline operational workflows and reduce time in the detect to correct lifecycle of incident tickets. They say, HCL says, a 33% reduction in mean time to restore. So that's the point. You get fewer alerts, 90% fewer alerts. You get an actionable situation, and you can respond instead of going, tearing your hair out. What is this? What is this? You go right to the problem, fix it, and that means 33% faster in the meantime to restore. So what's the outcome? This is for the boss. If he's not listening, you can give it to her. Just say, boss, this would allow us to support more customers with service quality, keep operational costs low and efficiency high. That's the language they understand. You'll know because it won't be a pinball game in your head. Go to Moogsoft.com. With Moogsoft AI Ops, you can reduce your IT alerts and tickets by up to 90% guaranteed. You take a look, give it to the boss, or if you're the boss, go get it. Moogsoft, trust me, your employees want you to. MOOGSOFT, Moogsoft.com, to learn more and to sign up for that demo. Everybody wins with Moogsoft. Paul Thurrott begins the back of the book with his pick of the week. Actually, it's a tip of the week. Sorry about that.
Yep. If you have not ordered a Surface Go yet, and you would like to do so, and you live in the United States, you have a couple of interesting new options to choose from.
Should I kick myself for having bought it from Microsoft? This is the Best Buy. This is the Best Buy deal, or I mean the Costco deal.
Yeah. So if you buy, they're both kind of interesting. I think you're probably still doing right by yourself. If you buy one at Best Buy, you get a $50 gift card. That's interesting, except that what you have is a $50 gift card for Best Buy, and I'm not really sure that's super valuable these days. But
I don't actually go into Best Buy ever, so okay, never mind.
When I go to a Best Buy now, it's my own version of time travel. Like people still do this.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, I know. It's like bookstores. You know, like I feel weird about it, but anyway, the Costco thing is interesting. In fact, I thought it was a typo at first. I thought there's no way this could be true. So if you're familiar with the offerings that Microsoft has, the two different versions of the product, there's a $400 version that's 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of slow eMMC storage. And then for $550, which is $150 more, you can get 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of
that's
fast
the one
SSD
I bought,
storage.
and everybody says to buy, and you said to buy last week.
Yes. So Costco has a third one.
Oh.
And this is actually kind of interesting because it's a bundle. So first of all, it includes a type cover. It's a 4 gig system, which I don't actually think is enough personally, but it has 128 gigs of SSD storage.
This is weird. So it's in between.
$550.
Oh.
Yeah. It's in between. So you have to kind of do the math on this. The high-end version with a type cover would be $650. And so this thing is $100 less.
For half the RAM.
And the difference is for half the RAM.
Okay.
It's tough because I don't think that $100 is worth 4 gigs.
No.
But I also don't think you should buy a 4 gig system personally.
Yeah.
It's a good deal.
Okay.
It's a good deal.
Yeah. Okay. So, but anyway, it's good to know. And the Best Buy one, is just like the regular prices, but you get a gift certificate. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Xbox Ultimate Game Sale.
Yeah. So a month ago, Microsoft had something that they said was the best game sale of the year, and now they have this one. I don't know what the difference is exactly,
it's
but
the ultimate sale.
if you're an Xbox gamer,
It's the next best.
it might be the penultimate sale.
It's the later this year, the ultimate.
Yeah.
What do we get? Is it a big difference?
So, I mean, it's impossible now to compare from this sale to the last sale, but the games are up to 75% off. It's worth going down the list and looking. If you're holding off on certain games, whatever, this is a great time to buy. They have sales on consoles and bundles and peripherals and everything else, controllers. Definitely take a look if you're in the market for any of this stuff. This is a good time to buy. And let's see, the app pick is this one could be convoluted, so I'm going to cut it down a little bit. But because I'm traveling internationally, I kind of rehashed the list of travel apps and services that I use because it kind of evolves each year, and I haven't actually written about this in 2 years. And I would say the big change, well, there are a couple of big changes, but some of the big changes from a couple of years ago are the much better availability of data and calling and text services to the point now where on Project Fi that I have, or if you're on T-Mobile, you'd never have to think about this stuff anymore. You just use your phone. It's great.
And lingonberry jam with Swedish meatballs, which are actually, I've learned today from Paul, Turkish meatballs.
Are Turkish. Yeah. Yeah, I'm full of fun little tidbits like that. Like the Pennsylvania Dutch thing. They're not Dutch. I love these little myth buster facts.
And by the way, if you're in Sweden, they wouldn't call them Swedish meatballs anyway. They call them meatballs.
So the funny thing is, obviously, this is that's me being Steven, right? But there obviously there's a Swedish word for these food items, but because everyone comes to this country expecting to get Swedish meatballs, they are almost always referred to on menus as Swedish meatballs.
Oh, interesting.
What a horrible hell that they have to live in because of that.
I feel so sorry for the Swedes.
That and
look at this picture of your boy before and after. Oh, that's
so this is messed up. I don't know that I'll post these anywhere, but since I posted this. So Google does this, right? Google Photos, you get this
they
thing
do it for you. Yeah.
Then and now.
Yeah. How many years apart is that?
We've gotten 3. That's 2013 to 2018.
Nice. 5 years.
5 years. Google has sent us 3 more of those. I took a picture of the rest of the family. Right. I took a picture of my daughter and my wife. I took another picture of my daughter and my wife. And Google has found photos from as far back as 2009 where it's the same people. Obviously, my daughter was tiny, compared to how she is now. They're wearing kind of similar clothes.
Oh, weird.
Like this is an incredible use of AI. Like it's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Obviously, Google understands who everyone is, et cetera, et cetera. It's fascinating. So I thought that
what's also fascinating to me as I look through your list of travel apps and services, how many of them are Google? Mm-hmm. Like almost all of them.
Well, yeah. So let me give the one example. This is the best one. This is something Mary Jo encountered, I think, when she went to Japan last time. For anyone who travels internationally and doesn't understand the language of the country that they're going to, the good news is English is often a very popular second language. Sweden especially, English is very common. But there is a magical app called Google Translate, which I'm sure everyone's heard of, where you hold your phone up to a thing written in some other language, and it translates it live on the screen as you're looking at it. It's kind of an AR type of experience, and it is amazing. And this is a stupid example, but it's just some spring water. I was telling my son about it. He downloaded it to his phone. He used it, and I said, "Oh, let me take a picture of that," because it's kind of a good example of how it works. Microsoft has an app like this too. It doesn't work live. You basically have to take a picture and then it translates it. But at least you have the thing sitting there as a still frame. You can take it down and just look at it. But if you want the Microsoft version, that's out there too. But this kind of thing, along with the mobile access, the ready access to data,
travel has changed. Yeah, it's changed completely.
Yeah, it's transformed it.
I remember the first time I went to Europe, which was 1967. I was a kid. I wanted to know what the baseball scores were. You had to wait till the next day.
In front of a teletype.
The New York Herald Tribune, the international edition.
Yeah.
And you would see the baseball scores from yesterday, or maybe if you're lucky yesterday, maybe like a couple of days ago.
Yep.
It was you were completely in a different world. And they didn't even have Coca-Cola. They had things like, I remember in Prague having something called Africola, which tasted nothing like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
It's really, now you're just in, United States Annex.
Right.
By the way, I'm sure people from Europe are hating it when I say that. That's like, how dare you, sir?
Well, no, this kind of thing makes the world smaller, and it's but in a good way. It's in 2003, we rented a phone so we could contact our kids back in America who were staying with their grandparents. And I remember driving down the Autobahn. I wasn't driving, but my wife was driving, but I was in the car driving down the Autobahn and having a conversation on this rented Nokia phone with my son, who, by the way, is deaf. And so he has cochlear implants. And the fact that we were conversing from halfway across the planet was just magical. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And, in 2007, I brought the first iPhone to France. And back then, Apple didn't even have the notion of roaming. So I did turn the thing. I was scared to death of using it. There were all these stories of people coming back
$10,000
with a foot-deep bill and paper and 10,000 bills. Things have changed, And now by the way, not only do I not think about using my phone and its data, I share it with everyone in my family.
Yeah.
And we walk around the city all day and take photos, and my kids are doing whatever terrible things they do online. But it's kind of incredible. So
do you find the data speed is sufficient with? You said you use both Google Fi and T-Mobile. Is it sufficient? It's pretty slow.
I'm on LTE here. I'm on LTE all the time.
Interesting. So it's really dependent on location. That's interesting.
Yeah. Actually, so I should say, interestingly, let me see if it comes up here. No. So in the hotel, I have actually seen something on my phone I haven't seen in many years, which is the letter E to describe your connection speed.
The worst.
So in the hotel, it doesn't say it now. I don't know why, but in the hotel, I have an Edge connection. I have Wi-Fi, so it's okay. But and my phone I can do everything over Wi-Fi, so that's fine. But when I step outside of the hotel, it goes LTE, and it's LTE. I've never been in
speed.
Berlin or Stockholm so far. Yeah, it's as good as it might even be better. It's fantastic.
Because Google always said, and actually, Fi is full speed. I guess it's T-Mobile that says, well, you're only going to get 3G speeds unless you buy the day pass.
A little tip for T-Mobile guys, though. T-Mobile just changed their international plans, and so they have a day pass now. It's $5 a day. That's half the price of Verizon or AT&T, and I believe that it is full speed. The limitation is they throttle it at, I don't know if it's 500 meg a day or something.
It's a pretty low threshold, like I remember.
Yeah, I think honestly, T-Mobile would be my fallback. If I wanted, the issue with Project Fi obviously is a limited selection of phones. And if I was going to go iPhone next time for some reason, I would go T-Mobile. That would be my choice. But the thing, Google Fi has so many advantages. And one of the big ones that they just changed this year is they put a cap on the amount they'll charge you every month. So it's $10 a gigabyte, doesn't change no matter what country you're in. If you hit 50 gigabytes of data, they stop charging you.
I know, I love that.
It's still full speed. It just keeps going. It's like just open the floodgates. Who cares?
Remind me, is Fi full speed? Yeah. It's not limited in the same way that T-Mobile is.
Right. There's nothing like that. There are no limits. So the most my bill can be in a month is, because I pay 10, it's the basic 10 for the first gig and then 20 for calling and texting, which is unlimited. Is that plus 4, so it's $70. So $70 plus taxes and fees, whatever. I early on with AT&T plans, and I'm working here. I'm not just on vacation. I have spent several $100s, if not over $1,000, certain years on these home swaps because I got to be connected. And my bill this year will be $75 or whatever that works out to be. It's going to be, that's all it is, and it doesn't matter how much I use it.
It's amazing.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, there you go. There you have it, kids. We're all connected now. No escaping. Well, in a way, I kind of bemoan that, because it used to be you'd go to Europe and it was a great. There were still cultural differences, but they were greater, and you left the States behind.
Yep.
And
yeah.
Now it's just like, I mean, it's good. We're in a global village. Everybody, we gotta, but still. I kind of miss that feeling of, wow, I'm out. I guess I have to go to like Africa or something now. Go to the bush to get that feeling.
Yep.
Enterprise pick of the week from Mary Jo Foley.
The Enterprise pick is Dynamics 365, the October release. So just like Windows and Office, Microsoft has moved to a twice yearly feature update schedule for its CRM and ERP software. What's different here is before, they would never really tell you what was in the release right until it was starting to roll out. They realized that's not optimal for people who need to plan for these feature updates. So they, this week, published the full release notes for the October release. It's not for the faint of heart. It's 238 pages of release notes. Yeah. It's a lot of stuff. Yikes. There's over 100 new features in the ERP and CRM modules across the board for all the different product types they have. There's a new Dynamics 365 AI for Sales app that's going to be in preview in October, which is kind of cool. It'll let you use things like sentiment analysis, and it can give you things like warnings about deals that are at risk so that you can take proactive measures if you're a salesperson. So they're rolling that out in October. They're having a whole bunch of new features for Power BI, for Microsoft Flow. If you care about Dynamics and the tools that go with it, you should go look at my blog post with the link so you can start reading the 238 pages. There's more than I can tell you in there. I'm still getting through it. There's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. There's your enterprise pick and your code name.
Codename is a new one from The Walking Cat. Aris, A-R-I-S. It's the codename for the next version of SQL Server. And we haven't heard anything about this so far. The last version of SQL Server that rolled out was last year, SQL Server 2017. So a lot of people were thinking we were probably now be on a yearly update schedule because there was SQL Server 2016 and then 2017. But given that this is just in a very early community technology preview, that's a closed preview at this point, I think I'll be surprised if it comes out in calendar 2018. I think this is probably a 2019 release. But what's in it? I don't know. If there's anybody listening who's in the private CTP and you feel like talking, we're here. Operators standing by. Call us. Yeah, I think there'll probably be a Windows Server version and a Linux version because now they're doing those in tandem. They did SQL Server for Linux. So, yeah, there's going to be a new version, but we just don't know yet what's in it. Or some people know, but I don't know.
Aris.
So, yeah.
ARIS.
ARIS. And I don't know what that code name is. I was looking around. Some people say it's a different spelling on Ares, like the god of war. But I don't know otherwise if it's a city.
Ares, Mars is the god of war. Ares is.
Oh, right. That's right.
Who is Ares? He's like Mercury, right? I can't remember.
Sun god, isn't he?
No,
Ares?
I think Ares is the.
Okay.
That's Apollo.
I know. I can't keep all these gods straight. Mercury is speed, right?
Yeah.
Well, the problem
Ares.
is,
No, you're right. Ares is the Greek god of war. Mars is the Roman god of war. So you're right.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
The Greeks were ambivalent toward Ares. Yeah, although he embodied the physical valor necessary for success in war, he was a dangerous force.
The Romans to Greece were kind of like Android to iPhone.
Yeah,
it's kind of a total ripoff.
Yeah. Romans just stole it all.
Yeah. Jerks.
All right, I want to hear how you pronounce why Stefana Hyphenvespier.
I think you did it.
I don't know. Did I? What do you think, Boris? No. Come over here and say it right.
Awesome.
Right. So I had to pick a German beer because Paul is in Berlin.
He's going to say that beer.
Weihenstephaner Hefeweiße Bier.
Hefeweiße Bier.
Yeah, Weihenstephaner.
That's exactly how I would have said it.
Hefeweißbier.
The official pronunciation.
It's good to have the real pronunciation, not the way I was going to do it.
He's like an audible reader in German.
I know, he's good, isn't he? It was so beautiful and mellifluous. Beautiful voice,
Yeah.
Boris.
So if you like Hefeweizen beers, which I know
do.
Brad does.
Wheat beers,
also.
right? Isn't that a wheat beer?
Wheat beer,
Yeah.
yep. A very nice wheat beer. Tastes a little banana, a little clove, really light, nice summery beer. This is your beer.
And it's
nice from Germany.
Nice Bavarian beer, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Quick story about beer, about Hefeweizen in particular. I have not had a beer since December 2016.
There's a picture of a beer on your Instagram, Paul.
Yeah, that was my son's.
Okay.
A lot of confusion every time I post. People don't seem to understand if I post a picture of food, it might be someone else in the party.
You're eating it. That's right.
Yeah, people are always like, "Oh, I thought you were on some keto thing. You hypocrite." So, it's I don't know if I mentioned the incredible heat wave that is occurring here. And I finally was like, look, I haven't actually had a beer since like I said, whatever that works out to be 20 months.
You've earned it, Paul.
I'm like, I'm gonna have a beer. Like I feel like this thing's it's gonna come right off me.
Yeah.
So I ordered a Hefeweizen today. Today literally today, I ordered a beer for the first time, and I did not drink it. So, thing is, I took the first gulp of this thing. I know within the scope of beers, because I've literally had thousands of different beers, Hefeweizen are not exactly heavy, but honestly, in this kind of weather, what you're really looking for is like a Pilsner kind of a thing.
Yeah,
you're looking
heavy,
for water. I drank this thing, and I was like, this is like drinking milk. I was like, I couldn't do it. I gave it to my son. I'm like, I can't drink this. It was just too much.
Wow.
The one gulp of it made me feel like full.
Wow.
Nice.
It was like filling.
Well, you're not eating any carbs, pretty much. So beer is all carbs.
Well, I do have. I drink wine. There's carbs in wine. I am not. I'm kind of on a low carb thing. I don't think honestly a normal glass of beer would have many more carbs than a normal glass of wine. To be honest, I have to say I found this to be very filling.
I think all beer is
I think
pretty filling.
I'm gonna go back to not doing that. That was just I was like, it's 90 degrees out. I am literally stewing in my own juices. I am going to have a beer. And I was like, ugh. I was like, this is not what it was weird. I tried.
He didn't inhale, folks. Nope.
Oh, no, I sucked down the first part of it, but then I was like, ugh. It's like gross.
It's like that milk at the Microsoft coffee bar. Yeah.
Yes. Have a little dusting of milk. It's like
Snort your milk.
Flour. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, can believe it or not, we have come to the end of this show, man. Jam-packed with goodness. Mary Jo Foley, all about Microsoft.com if you want to know more and keep up with the scoops between now and next week. Paul Thurrott, follow him on Instagram along with his family as they travel around Europe. Still in Berlin, back to Stockholm when? Tomorrow?
Yep, tomorrow night.
And he continues to do his main job, which is posting nonsense at Thurrott.com.
That's right.
No, just kidding.
Right.
Just
sporadically posting nonsense. No, that's a very accurate description.
That's your tagline from now on.
Yeah. Sporadically posting nonsense since 1999.
THURROTT. Get the premium account. For crying out loud. Buy this guy a beer. He deserves
That's even
it.
more sporadic and even more nonsense.
No, I subscribe and I love it. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. We do the show every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC if you want to come by and watch it. In fact, you could do like Boris did and actually watch it live in studio. If you're going to be in Northern California, we're in a little town called Petaluma, about an hour north of San Francisco. Just email tickets at twit.tv and we'll be glad to host you. You can also watch our live stream at twit.tv/live. We have a variety of feeds there. It's best to go there because all the current feeds are there and we update it from time to time. I think it's currently Ustream, YouTube Live, Twitch, and Mixer, the Microsoft Mixer, which has been a little issue for us. I'm not sure if it's up or down or not. They changed some configuration issues. But anyway, it'll come back. We also have audio feeds, a couple of audio feeds you can get at twit.tv/live. If you do that, check out the chat room. These guys are fun. Fun! I tell you, fun! They are at irc.twit.tv, and you can be featured on the show along with these fine people. If you can't watch live or be here live, you can always get on-demand versions of everything we do at the website twit.tv, in this case twit.tv/WW, or get your podcatcher out and subscribe. You can even ask your Cortana device or your Echo or your Google device. Listen to Windows Weekly, and the most recent version will almost always play. Sometimes you get Brad, sometimes not. Mostly you get Paul and Mary Jo. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy the heat. Enjoy the mugginess.
Thanks.
Enjoy the Hefeweizen. And we will see you next time on Windows Weekly.